Breaking ball, fly ball, left field, that's deep, to the wall, gone! He's back!
Hey, who needs a play-by-play guy? Tonight, we don't. Yours truly, Tommy Hutton, Mr. Marlin, Jeff Conine, and the best-dressed man in baseball, Preston Wilson, will be calling the game. It's the attack of the analysts. Well, right now it looks a lot better than it did about 30, 45 minutes ago. It was awful outside, but you know what? We're nice and cozy inside here at Marlins Park as the St. Louis Cardinals enter to take on the Miami Marlins. Hi, everybody. Tommy Hutton, and we got a nice group up here in the booth. Preston Wilson, Jeff Conine. We're going to kill you with analytical work tonight from three analysts. But first off, Niner, let's talk about this ball club, the St. Louis Cardinals. They're the best club, or the best team all around in baseball.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. This Cardinal organization is one to be really modeled after every year. And no matter what the turnover in players is, they always seem to be at the top of that division. Look what they've done so far this year, 20 games over 500. That's really no surprise, being that they're second in the National League in average, and their 3.17 leads all of Major League Baseball. So St. Louis Cardinals going to be a tough ticket for the Marlins this weekend.
Not to mention the fact they also have the best fielding club in the National League, too. Preston, the pitching matchup's a pretty good one. We get a youngster against a veteran. Jose Fernandez goes for the fish.
Well, Jose Fernandez is making great strides. He's coming off of 2 consecutive quality starts. But what I like most is he's starting to learn how to pitch. He's not overthrowing as much as he did in his first few starts. And now you start to see him figuring out which batters he wants to attack more. Sometimes he might lay out with that tough batter with the base open. We're starting to see some maturation. I'm enjoying it.
And the guy he goes up against is a veteran pitcher, Jake Westbrook of the Cardinals. Westbrook is a ground ball machine when he's on his game. A lot of sinkers, but he hasn't made a start until sometime in May. He's been out with elbow inflammation. So that's the matchup for this one tonight. Westbrook against Jose Fernandez. We'll be back next with Craig Mittervini and Cliff Floyd to check out the middle of the order. There's a little change before this one tonight. At Marlins Park, Tommy Hutton, Preston Wilson, Jeff Conine. We're used to throwing it out to you, but now we get an opportunity to throw it back out to Cliff Floyd and Craig Minervini.
We'll take the catch. Thank you very much, Tommy.
You can't catch.
Back in the day, not too bad. But let's talk about the Marlins lineup here. Unfortunately, Logan Morrison came down a little back stiffness late today. He was scratched in the afternoon, and so we're not going to see the Stanton, Lomo, Ozuna lineup in that way. But which way do you like it once Lomo comes back healthy day to day?
Well, I like him, hitting fifth. I think when you look at this lineup right now, I like Pierre at the top. You see Stanton there. Ozuna, until he shows that he's overmatched, then I leave him right there because he has protection. He causes, pitches some concerns, some where you have to pitch him differently. And then you allow guys like Dietrich and Hechavarria, these guys to move down where they're not overexposed. And I think that's what you're looking for if you're Mike Redmond, to get these guys consistently back. And I know you have to be smart. You have to plan wisely. But you still need those guys in the middle to cause havoc and allow everybody else to be comfortable.
It does slot it in the lefty. You see Dietrich lefty, Dobbs the lefty, slots it a little bit. Pierre's the lefty up top, rather than the other night where they were able to come in a lefty and get a couple lefties in a row.
Right.
And they also had to put Brantley down in that 8th spot if they want to or not, because you don't want 3 lefties in a row. It gives you a little more flexibility, but ideally you'd like Ozuna at least for now in the
I love him
spot.
there. I think he's done a really good job. I think he's earned the opportunity to hit fourth, and when you're protecting, the prized possession in Stanton, he needs to be able to see some pitches, and who better to hit behind him than a guy that's hot? And then if you want to pitch around Stanton, he will hurt you, and
yes,
that's what you're looking for from a manager in the middle.
And he's been pretty patient too. Ozuna, we've seen him
aggressively patient.
Aggressively patient. That's right. That's a good way to put it. That's an excellent way to put it. All right, Jose Fernandez, he's aggressive and he's getting set for a matchup with the best team right now in Major League Baseball, the St. Louis Cardinals, next on Fox Sports Florida.
Up this 3-game weekend series against the St. Louis Cardinals, we always love to see the lighter side, the softer side sometimes of players. How about Jose Fernandez as he gets ready to go to the bullpen to take his warm-up tosses? He sees a stray bird. I might add, fellas, not a red bird, and make sure he gets the bird to safe surroundings. How about that?
I mean, I'm a bird lover, so that's nice to me. Get him out of harm's way. But, he's at one with nature just to walk up to a bird like that and pick it up. So,
the bird whisperer.
All right, well, he is ready, and I think we've all seen him prepare for a game a little different than most pitchers that we've seen over the years. Talks to people, likes to take a lot of extra BP. Gorgeous night outside now and inside. Here's the St. Louis Cardinals lineup for tonight's game. Matt Carpenter. Look at the averages as you go down this order. Veteran Carlos Beltran, Matt Holliday, Alan Craig is over 300. Yadier Molina leading the league. David Freese always gets clutch base hits. Miami's own John Jay in center field. Pete Kozma, the shortstop, and the veteran right-hander Jake Westbrook on the mound.
Here you got Fernandez coming tonight. You know he's going to want to work, get off to a good start, work ahead of these Cardinals hitters, because when you got a lineup that's pounding the ball the way they are, you can't afford to fall behind. And then after that, he's definitely going to need his secondary pitches. Changeup is going to need to be big tonight to handle a couple of those lefties in there, but more so the breaking ball. That's his number 2 weapon. He calls it the defector. He's going to need that tonight.
You know what's great about Jose Fernandez tonight is that he's taken on the best team in Major League Baseball, and he's looking forward to it. I guarantee you last night he was fired up that he was going to be facing the St. Louis Cardinals today.
He was happy that his order came up in this spot. Let's take a look at the defense, Niner.
Let's take a look at the defense brought to you by Cleveland Clinic. Juan Pierre, Marcell Ozuna, Giancarlo Stanton, Lucas Echeverria, Dietrich, Dobbs in the infield, and the battery, Jose Fernandez, and Jeff Mathis, the veteran catcher, behind the dish.
I think one of the interesting things about the Cardinals as they get ready to face Jose Fernandez, they played a day game in New York, and Mike Matheny's club faced Matt Harvey. So back-to-back games, the Cardinals, best hitting team in the league, get to face the 2 young right-handers who arguably are the 2 best young righties in the league.
Well, you know, and the guy who's going to have him prepared is one of our old good buddies, Mabry. He's the hitting coach, and we know him quite well. And, you know, I think he feels like they have him ready, but I think Mr. Fernandez is going to be up to the task tonight.
First pitch of the game brought to you by Pinch a Penny. I think early on it's always good to watch Jose and see how he commands his fastball. That's always a key.
Yeah, we saw him, especially in the Tampa Bay game, go out there and blow 99 miles an hour in the first inning of that game, and really didn't have his good stuff that night. I think he's a little bit too amped up.
You know, Nana, I think that night was a big learning experience for him, because he learned that when he is too pumped up, he doesn't have the control. And actually in his last few starts, I haven't seen that 98. He's been pitching more between 94 to 97, you know, mostly between 94 and 95, but he's having better location and he's getting deeper into the game and not falling behind nearly as many batters. But it has cost him a little bit of velocity, but I think he's willing to take that.
That ball stung by Matt Carpenter, a base hit. Cardinals have a well-balanced lineup, too, and you go next to a guy, Carlos Beltran, a veteran switch hitter.
Not too many holes in this lineup. It's one right after the other. Carpenter just ended a 18-game hitting streak on Wednesday, so he's starting another one right now.
One of the things about Carlos Beltran over the years, he's been one of those consistent switch hitters. He's been pretty solid from both the left side and the right side.
I got to play with Carlos his rookie season with the Kansas City Royals, and I mean, you could tell the guy was going to be something special back then. He just everyone thought he had not much passion for the game because he was so nonchalant. He was that talented, but boy, talk about a five-tool player.
You know, there are guys like that as he sends a fly ball easy out to Juan Pierre. There are guys like that. Everybody doesn't have that fire. Everybody approaches the game a little differently. And I think sometimes the guys get criticized that don't have that fire.
Well, and this is not a language thing, but I think sometimes that fire gets mistranslated. You know, sometimes I think because a guy is not a rah-rah type guy that he doesn't have the fire. Some guys just display it differently. You know, he's one of those guys that internalizes everything, and I think that's why he's better suited for maybe a smaller market. I think New York didn't really agree with him because he does internalize a lot of things. I think he's a guy who's perfectly suited for a place like St. Louis where there isn't as much media hoopla. He can go out there and play the game that he loves to play, but without all the outside extra things coming into it.
Well, this guy up there, Matt Holliday, he could grind the sawdust off a bat the way he approaches hitting, and he's been a tremendous hitter over the years. Matt Holliday, a lifetime 300 hitter.
I was down in the batting cage before the game, and Matt told me, if it wasn't for your knee, I might not have gotten a chance to play. I'm like, thanks for reminding me, man. We were on a team together in Colorado, and he was a young guy, that was coming up, and you could tell he had all kinds of talent. A really strong guy, had to learn a lot defensively to become a good an outfielder in the National League, but he had the offensive ability. He had the bat speed. He had the strength, and it's nice to see him come along the way that he has.
I don't know what makes you think he's a strong guy. Looks like he's got muscles coming out of the top of his head. They told me that in St. Louis they had to buy a new set of dumbbells over 100 pounds because they didn't exist before he got there.
Oh, Phil Cuzzy, home plate umpire, takes one to the chin, but appears to be all right. Holiday, one of those guys, too. Preston, and you can speak to this. Put up those big numbers. Had some big years with the Rockies, and I think everybody was skeptical to see how he would fare once he got out of Denver. And he's done quite well.
Well, I think one of the things people kind of forget is that the numbers in Colorado may still be a little high, but they're not nearly as high as they were in the late 90s because of the inception of the humidor that they put there. They put the humidor in there, and there was a stretch after they put the humidor in where the home starting pitchers for Colorado went 50-something innings without giving up a home run. So it shows you that it has had an effect on the long ball in that ballpark. So the home run numbers aren't what they were. And, I mean, it's a credit to him because he's proven to everybody, hey, it wasn't that ballpark. No matter where I go, I'm going to be able to hit.
Got 2-2 to Matt Holliday. Jose working with one out with Carpenter at first. The Cardinals, of all the things they do, stealing bases is not one they do with frequency. They will occasionally take off. Boy, there've been a couple of balls hit hard. The base hit by Carpenter. We'll see how that one's ruled. But that one, a short hop, in between hop to Ed Lucas over to third base.
As a hitter, I want that as a hit. I mean, he scalds this ball. It's a very difficult play. Comes up right at the last second. Ed Lucas unable to come up with it. They give it an error.
Yep, I don't think Holliday's going to agree with the scoring. Well, it's not an easy play. He's charged right now in E5, so the Cardinals get runners at first and second with one down.
Well, I think you get those plays when you have a guy who's bouncing around from position to position. He's played first base, a little third base. I think on that play, most infield coaches will tell you if you do a drop step right there, you will extend that hop from a short hop to a longer hop, but he kind of kept his feet still right there and the ball ate him up.
So now it's the cleanup hitter, Alan Craig. And the Cardinals, how about this? The Cardinals as a team have a .339 batting average with runners in scoring position as a team. Base hit brings in a run, and the key right there is that Juan Pierre was able to get to the ball and just bring it back into the infield. He didn't have thoughts of trying to throw Carpenter out at the plate.
Well, that's something that you're going to see all year, with Juan Pierre with the base hits. They're going to force him to make a throw, even if he's playing really shallow. They know he doesn't have the greatest arm, so they're going to push that envelope every chance they get.
See, location quite wasn't there where Jose Fernandez wanted it. Mathis sets up on the outside corner, and that ball goes right down the middle. Alan Craig pounced on it.
Boy, he was facing a guy hitting .418 with runners in scoring position, too. Doesn't get any easier. Yadier Molina steps in now.
I was speaking with Al Raboski before the game, and he told me that the Cardinals as a team, with men in scoring position 2 outs, are hitting .350 as a team. That's how you score a lot of runs, when you can extend innings with base hits with men in scoring position with 2 outs.
They have a lineup with lots of depth. Talked about Molina leading the league in hitting .353. 1-0 fastball off the end of the bat and drops in front of Giancarlo. Throw to the plate, a pretty good one, but also good base running by Matt Holliday, who just beats the throw. Good base running because he got a good jump. He knew where Stanton was playing.
That base running play was made before the ball was hit. When you know where your outfielders are playing, you know when that ball is hit on the bat, where it's going to land, and therefore you know that he took off right away because he knew where Stanton was playing. That run is scored because he was prepared before the ball was even hit.
Well, Molina shattered his bat, but he picks up an RBI base hit and increases that league-leading batting average throw a pretty good one, but Holiday, because of that base running, just beat it.
Kids, I know it's not a kid's Sunday, but when your coaches tell you to check the outfielders when you get to second base, that's exactly what Matt Holiday did. He checked and saw the depth of what they were playing, and like you said, Tommy, that's why he was able to score on that.
And now it's David Freese, the third baseman for the Cardinals. Cardinals up 2-0 early after just 13 pitches from Jose Fernandez. Up high with a fastball. Boy, another guy over the years who's just gotten big hit after big hit. 2011, he was the MVP of the NLCS and the World Series.
There's another guy just ended a very long hitting streak, had MLB's best hitting streak at 20 snapped on Wednesday.
So I think safe to say early on we haven't seen the fastball command from Jose Fernandez. Always a scary pitch, a 2-0 pitch to a good hitter. Hey, he drops a breaking ball. Freese was not looking for that one.
And Preston, what you said earlier about Jose Fernandez, this kid is in the learning mode, so he's going to learn by this, even this half inning. He'll go in there and reevaluate what went wrong and what went right this half inning and make his adjustments, which is why he's going to be great.
That's absolutely right, because we've seen him do that this year. We've seen him have a bad inning and then adjust.
And I think that is the most telling thing about a young player. It's not whether they struggle or whether they have success. It's when they do struggle, how do they respond to it? Do they crawl in the shell? Do they get into that mentality of harder is always better? Or do they learn from it and learn, this is what I need to do? So maybe I need to go a little softer here. Maybe I need to locate better there. And those are the guys who end up extending their career and making themselves a viable part of an organization for years and years to come.
What happens there, he drops the beauty of a curveball in to get the strikeout, and a lot of that credit has to go to Jeff Mathis, I think, too.
Great pitch. Still location wasn't quite where Mathis wanted. You see him set up on the outside corner. He missed on the other side of the plate, but might have been a good thing. Frozen.
Yeah, the one thing these Cardinals hitters do is they sit in the gaps. They're not looking to pull the ball. They pull the ball when you make them pull the ball. They swing gap to gap. You can see it in their batting practice. You can see it in their approach at the plate. Guarantee Freese was looking away right there, and that ball inside froze him because it was so far inside and caught the inside corner.
And John Jay comes up out of the University of Miami. John Jay early in the year was the Cardinal leadoff hitter. Struggled a little bit, so he's down in the order. And with the way that Matt Carpenter's been hitting up top, Jay's going to stay right there. Good job by Greg Dobbs to get over, and a good job by Jose Fernandez to cover the bag. Not an easy play, but the Cardinals get a couple of runs on 3 hits. They take a 2-0 lead, bottom of the first coming. the St. Louis Cardinals. Got a couple of runs, one earned, one unearned on 3 base hits. Jake Westbrook gets ready to work to the Marlins lineup. It looks like this. Juan Pierre leads off. Ed Lucas hitting second at third base. Giancarlo Stanton, Marcell Ozuna. Derek Dietrich, you see what Red has done with the lineup to kind of mix up the lefties, Dietrich and Dobbs, so he has Echeverria in between. Dobbs in the lineup at first base, Jeff Mathis catching, and on the mound, Jose Fernandez. And there's a look at Jake Westbrook. Last time he pitched and started a game was May 8th in Chicago against the Cubs. Westbrook, when he's on his game, lots of sinkers, gets a ton of ground balls. Good change up there.
Yeah, quite a veteran. I remember facing Jake Westbrook when he was back with the Indians. And just like you said, probably a few more miles on his fastball back then. But man, he had what we called a turbo sinker. Very late life on his fastball.
Well, since 2003, he has the third best ground ball to fly ball ratio in the major leagues. Let's look at the scouting report. Grounders galore when he's on his game.
Got that little short arm delivery.
Yeah.
Little quick little short arm there, and he works fast.
Oh,
he keeps the defense on their toes.
Does not waste any time.
For righties, it'll be more fastball slider. For lefties, be more of a changeup. As we saw right there, trying to throw the changeup to Juan Pierre.
He had a couple of rehab starts in A ball and double A, coming off the disabled list with that inflamed elbow. Yeah, Molina couldn't hang on.
Interesting to hear him say that over his whole career he's always had elbow problems, and it flares up every once in a while, and he just nonchalantly thought that this was just one of those times where his elbow flared up and he needed some time off, and now he's back in the rotation.
A rotation that has some hard young throwers, and then you throw in the 35-year-old Jake Westbrook. Diving attempt by the second baseman Matt Carpenter, but JP gets himself an infield base hit and also gets himself a 10-game hitting streak.
This is just, it's vintage JP. Get that ball on the ground in the hole somewhere. We saw him do it the other night in the 9th inning to extend the inning and let Giancarlo Stanton hit the game-winning home run, but get it in the hole and use those legs, and he's still got speed.
You know, through June 1st, Juan Pierre was hitting .218. Since that time, his average now about .375 with that base hit. That'll bring in the third baseman, Ed Lucas, who just continues to get base hits, have good ABs. Lucas had a couple of base hits in that Wednesday game against the Brewers.
Well, and the one thing is for sure, whenever Juan Pierre gets on base, there's going to be a lot of attention devoted to him over there.
Tough guy to steal against, though, is Westbrook. Pretty quick to the plate. Most sinker ballers are. And you have a guy by the name of Yadier Molina behind the plate.
Yep, the thing is when you're a base stealer, sometimes it's not about actually stealing the base. It's just about taking a little bit of focus. If you can get that pitcher to focus on you, you don't have to steal, because that's going to affect his pitch. He may, that sinker may not get down as much. He might hang a slider, and you've still had an effect on the game.
Lucas trying to shoot for that hole on the right side, fouls it off.
Remember, Tom, we saw that in his first start. We saw him shoot that hole with Juan Pierre on first base to get one of his, I think it was 4-hit night.
Fastest Marlin to ever have a 4-hit night, to get to 4 hits. So he's done a little bit of everything.
You sure about that?
I mean, he threw that out there kind of nonchalant.
You had it opening day. See, now that makes me question that note. See, that's why we have you here.
Attack of the analysts has begun.
Yeah, sure about that?
JP still inching off, draws a throw from Westbrook. Juan Pierre gets that maximum lead all the time.
You know, and it's something for young base stealers to learn. You're going to get picked off, but you still need to be able to have that fearlessness to get out there and get that maximum lead. Because that's the only way you learn what your maximum lead is. Maury Wills once told me one time, he said, you can't steal second base by trying to stay close to first base. And if he said it, then I'm going to take that advice because he was one of the best ever.
You think about how many plays are bang, bang by half a step at second base from the catcher, and if you can get that half a step or more at first on your lead, you're going to be safe.
There goes JP. The pitch is away. The throw by Molina, and a great slide by Juan Pierre.
Better than a slide. That was an unbelievable jump. You don't get jumps off Westbrook like this. Like you said earlier, he's so quick to the plate. But Juan Pierre must have had some type of key that he saw, because as soon as Westbrook flinched just a little bit, he was gone.
Quickness and acceleration. You look at all the great base stealers over the years, and most of them have had that.
Slide to the back of the bag, make the tag really hard to apply. Just a great work ethic, great sensibility on the bases what Juan Pierre brings. And you'll see, you can talk about him stealing bases all night because he does so many things well.
Trying to go to the other side, and a good play by Westbrook to knock it down. Even with 2 strikes, you can see what Lucas was trying to do.
Cardinals showing off that defense. Once again, well, let's get a look at the defense by Cleveland Clinic here. Juan Pierre in left. Well, that's not their defense. That's the Marlins defense. Come on, Graphic. Let's go. Get the right guys up there. Come on, you got Holiday in left, John Jay in center, Beltran out there in right field. Over at third base, you got Freeze, Cosmo is short, Carpenter is second. First base, who we got over there?
Alan Craig.
Alan Craig at first base. And, of course, we got Yadier Molina as catcher and Westbrook as a pitcher.
So now it has become attack of the truck, too, and the crack sap.
There's going to be some battling going on tonight, folks.
All right, JP's at second. 1 down, and here's Giancarlo Stanton. Stanton has at least 1 hit in each of the 3 games that he's played. One of those a game-winning home run. What have you seen that you've liked? What have you seen that you anticipate a little more?
Well, there's going to be some rust, like we've talked about. You miss that much time in the big leagues, over a month being out of game action. You're going to see some pitches that he'll square up, that he should square up, and a lot of pitches that he doesn't square up that he should square up. And we've seen that, I think, in his first few games back.
For me, the biggest thing is I want to see him not thinking. I want to see him attacking and then letting his eyes tell him what not to swing at.
There you get a little example of that solid infield. Cosma's made just 3 errors. Carpenter's been solid at second. The entire team, the entire Cardinal team, which leads the league in defense, has made just 25 errors. There they are.
Hey, there we go. Now we got a good look for your fans. Holiday in left, John Jay in center. The perennial all-star Beltran over there in right field. Freeze at third, Cosmo at shortstop. The hot-hitting Carpenter at second. Alan Craig holding down first base. Yadier Molina, one of the best catchers out there right now, if not the best, and Westbrook on the mound.
That'll bring in Marcell Ozuna in the cleanup spot. A little trouble in that Milwaukee series. Marcell was 1 for 11. And interesting, before this lineup came out, there was a lineup that had Logan Morrison in it. And Mike Redmond had Lomo hitting 4th. But with a little stiffness in his back, Lomo not in the lineup, so the change put Marcell Ozuna back in that 4th spot.
You know, I agree with sometimes with putting that lefty in between there. But if you have a right-handed batter that's handling right-handed pitching well, you don't necessarily have to put a lefty in between there. Because if they're handling the right-handed pitching well, you're not worried about that time late in the game where the other manager's trying to match up right, left, right with you. So you can actually put Ozuna behind Stanton or in front of Stanton and still have the desired effect, I think, in your lineup.
Can't tune 1 to Ozuna. Still maintaining that average over 300. 2-2.
The Milwaukee series is really the first series that we didn't see him routinely square up balls on a nightly basis. He had a nice hit up the middle, but other than that, you saw a lot of ground balls, some pop-ups. I think most of his outs even have been hard hit balls up until that series.
Well, I think he got pitched in a little bit, and then he started thinking about it a little bit, and he started rushing. And it kind of took him away from his game plan for a few games, but he was able to get back to looking more away like he likes to do, and that allows him to drive the ball through the middle of the field, and it allows him to hit the bad breaking balls. But once they started speeding him up inside, he kind of lost the outside half a little bit, and then he started chasing a few pitches that we hadn't seen him chase early on in his young career.
Westbrook getting the sign, and as we mentioned, he doesn't like to take too much time. 2-2 pitch, hit hard, 2 hops, picked by David Freese, a little high with the throw, but hanging on is Alan Craig over at first base. So good defense, 2-0, Cards lead. Tonight's broadcast in high definition is brought to you by H.H. Gregg. And also brought to you in high definition, Tommy Hutton, Preston Wilson, and Jeff Conine. Happy to be with you here at Marlins Park, beginning of this 3-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals. Major League's best record and a challenge for Jose Fernandez. See if he makes some adjustments here in this inning, and a good adjustment with what should be 1 pitch and 1 out. Pete Kozma, the shortstop, hitting that pop fly. So this is an inning where sometimes a pitcher can get back into a little bit of a groove. He's got the shortstop, then he has the pitcher coming up before he gets back to the top of the lineup.
Well, your veteran pitchers are use these at bats to feel out their pitches that they don't have a feel for.
These are those National League innings.
Oh yeah. These are those National League innings. Exactly. A pitcher, if he doesn't quite have the feel that he wants for his breaking ball, he might throw 8, 9, a few more breaking balls because he still has the belief that he can get back into the count and get those guys out because he knows he's going to need it once that lineup flips over.
Well, one of the things that he has just been spectacular at, and when he gets ahead, he's been able to put hitters away. 2 hopper to Lucas. Easy play over to first. Westbrook is done. And 2 outs here in the top of the second. Fans, help your Marlins get to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in New York, Citi Field. Go to Marlins.com. Vote the maximum 25 times and receive 4 free Marlins tickets just for voting. Plus, 1 random grand prize winner will receive a 22-person luxury suite for a Marlins game. Go to Marlins.com and vote for your Marlins All-Star hopefuls now. Now back to the top of the order after 2 quick outs and a quick strike to a really good hitter, Matt Carpenter.
You pretty much knew he was going to be taking first pitch. You got 2 quick outs. A good leadoff hitter will make sure they try to extend the inning with a pitch count at least and let Fernandez throw as many as he can.
Carpenter's one of those guys that had to earn his at-bats when he first came up to the major leagues. He was used primarily as a pinch hitter. He had to work his way in, get the at-bats, and they've trusted him with some big pinch hit situations over the last year or so. And now he's getting a chance to play every day and just showing a great showing, 329 average, and just hitting the ball all over the ballpark.
Well, we see a lot of the Cardinals. Certainly, we saw a lot of Matt Carpenter in spring training. Some good pitching. He's come back. He made a nice comeback. 1, 2, 3, go the Cardinals in the top half of the second. They still hang on to a 2-0 lead. We'll go to the bottom half. Miami Marlins baseball on Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. By AT&T Uverse TV. Check availability at 1-800-PICK AT&T. Rethink possible. By Just for Men Auto Stop, the foolproof way to get rid of gray. And by Checkers, Preston's favorite. Feast on.
Is that what you were crushing there in the pregame?
You will not kid. I will pull a hamstring running from a Checkers. I do not eat there. No, thank you.
You eat the good food.
Nah, I do eat Checkers. I'm joking. I eat Checkers.
There's that breaking ball to Derek Dietrich. Pretty good slider. Here's a guy that if he misses down in the zone, that's kind of in Dietrich's zone because a lot of clubs have been trying to pitch him up with hard stuff. There's the changeup.
One of the great things about Dietrich's season so far, for me anyway, you see the average sits at 222 right now. You're thinking that's not very good, but he's hitting over 300 with men on base, which is showing me that he's really concentrating or getting that better pitch to hit with guys that he can really drive in.
Every home run that he's hit this year has either tied a ball game or put the Marlins up. That shows you that he's getting those hits in clutch situations.
And a lot of that, because he's a young player, a lot of that I would imagine just with concentration. He's concentrating a little bit more in those situations. Counts 2-2 now to Derek Dietrich, who certainly has impressed in his time here. He's been on base 26 of the 30 games he's played. 2-2 hit hard on the ground. Little bobble by the second baseman, Matt Carpenter. More than a little bobble. He'll be charged with an error. And Dietrich's at first base.
This ball was hit okay fairly sharply, but I think what happened here is you get these second basemen that are starting to play behind that lip of the grass, and the ball isn't as predictable as when it's on the dirt. They try to take away that base hit by playing deeper in that hole and getting on the grass, and sometimes they don't get that true hop as they do if they stay on the dirt.
This is a little different surface than the Cardinals saw here last year. A little faster, so I think they're trying to get used to that too. Here's a Danny Echeverria trying to get that average back over 200.
I agree with you, Preston. I don't know why you would want the lip of the infield in front of you on a ground ball. I mean, we saw that probably hit toward that lip and hopped right over his glove. That could be a pivotal error in a big game.
It makes sense when you have a Ryan Howard up and you're 15 feet beyond it.
Right.
On the outside corner, 1-1. There's a look.
You see that hop? Bam, right there. Gets on the lip of that thing. Just gets it up enough to get it out of the middle of that glove.
A lot of that had to do with the angle he took to go after the ground ball.
Right. He could have gone more lateral to go towards first base on a more, steeper angle, and he could have cut that ball off on the dirt. Instead, he drifted back towards right field, playing that ball on the grass, and it probably cost him an error just now.
I think we're all in agreement, too. We've seen better swings. Counts 1 and 2 now to Echeverria. We've seen better swings the last couple of weeks from Medani.
Well, I think a big point was made when the team was playing in Philadelphia that the scouts who've been watching him say that he definitely is a better hitter when he's centered more in the right center gap, when he's looking to drive the ball that way. And his swings have gotten better. He's had better at bats. Had a good game in New York. Really good in that really long game. He had a good game there. And you're starting to see him drive the ball through the big part of the field, just like right there.
Yeah, base hit up the middle, and just like that, the Marlins have runners at first and second. Nice solid swing, good AB from Echeverria. Well, let's check on our AT&T social media poll question, our Twitter poll tonight. Are the Cardinals as good as everyone thinks? Well, let's see. Hashtag Cardinals yes, or hashtag Cardinals no way. What do you guys think?
I'm going to say hashtag Cardinals yes.
Yeah, I got to vote hashtag Cardinals yes also, just because we know just that organization, how they go about their business. And it's not a fluke. They've been doing it for years and years now.
Preston would definitely know better than I because he actually played for the Cardinals, but in covering them in the NLCS last year and just learning a lot about this organization and the attitudes of the players that play on this team, you realize there is a Cardinal way, and these guys are taught at a very young age in the minor leagues how to play that way. So when they get to the big leagues, they know exactly what they're doing.
Greg Dobbs fouls that pitch off, and the count's 1-1 to Dauber.
There's a great deal of respect, a great deal of reverence for the game that they instill in the minor leagues. And then when you come to the Cardinals, they let you know that what comes first is the game. This game has been here before you, and it's going to be here long after you. So you play it with respect. You play it the right way. It doesn't mean you can't have your personality as a player, but you will play hard and you will play the game correctly.
Roll to Carpenter. He makes the play, his only play to first base. It's a bad news, good news. Bad news, it's an out. Good news, both runners advance, and the Marlins with one out have runners at second and third.
No, that's a good at-bat by Dobbs right there. Even though he doesn't get the hit or drive to run in, he pulls that ball enough to where there's only one play, because when you have a double play situation, the second baseman and shortstop are cheating there close to the bag. So it's like if you got that hole open on first base, you pull it over there. That's kind of the same concept there. You get it far enough in that hole so the second baseman only has one play to make, and you get both guys over.
Saw how far Carpenter had to go there.
He thought about it. He thought about going to second, but decided against it. Echeverria's got good speed.
Now it's up to Jeff Mathis with the infield back to worst case scenario. You just want to at least get one run here.
Especially with a ground ball pitcher, you know this guy would be tough to get up in the air to try to hit a sac fly, but just stay in the middle of the field and hit a ground ball, you get a run.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Niner, but whenever I was in this situation, especially later in my career when I learned, I try to hit that ground right there, ground ball second base.
Excellent job.
Boy, that's a great job. Great job. You called it, and an RBI, and Marlins get on the board, and it's a 2-1 Cardinal lead.
You saw there was a purpose to that swing, too. He was trying to do that, which I love that. I love having a plan when you've got a guy at third with less than 2 outs. Look at this swing. You see him wait for the ball, and I'm just going to put it right over there because I know we're going to get a run, and I know that guy's going to advance to third base.
You know, and you might look at this, and fans go, well, he didn't hit it that hard. And you know what? He probably could have hit that ball a lot harder and pulled it to the shortstop. But it's not going to give you the same effect. He could have pulled it harder. He might have even pulled that ball to the third baseman, but he wouldn't have gotten the runner over from second to third, and gotten the runner in from third to home.
You know, Jose Fernandez is going to have some rips. Westbrook has recorded 5 outs. They've all been on the ground, so he's staying true to form. You know, to get back, there's one thought when you were talking about the Cardinals and the type of organization they've had. Since 1960, they have only had consecutive losing seasons once.
Wow.
94, 95.
Wow, that's impressive.
There's a ground ball. This one goes up into center field, and just like that, Jose Fernandez ties the game.
Look at this. I saw him in the cage when I came back from BP. He was in the cage taking a little tee work. I pounded on the window, and I'm like, yeah, forget about pitching. Let's get some hitting in.
He's amazing. I mean, he takes more cuts and more swings than any starting pitcher I've ever seen.
You know what I like about that? I like the fact that he wasn't trying to pull that ball. You can see that he was just swinging the bat wherever the ball was.
So a good inning, some good at-bats, some real nice approaches. And now Juan Pierre steps in. JP had a base hit to extend his hitting streak to 10 games. And also picked up his 18th stolen base.
You know, Tommy Niner, the amazing thing about that piece of advice I got while driving in runs was I got it from a guy who pitched. I got it from Al Jackson. He said, you know, I get up there, I'm going to throw these. He called them big, hairy-chested guys.
There's a line drive in the left. We'll have to continue the hairy-chested story in a few minutes. But the Marlins have tied it. It's 2-2. We go to the third. Second inning. Second run coming in on a base hit by Jose Fernandez. And I think we really enjoyed the way Fernandez, with just 8 pitches, came back and had a beautiful inning in the top half of the second. So he did make adjustments.
And the nice thing that we saw was he got a feel for a few pitches that he didn't necessarily have a feel for earlier in the lineup when the heat was kind of on. He got a feel for his changeup against the pitcher, threw a couple good breaking balls there. So let's hopefully it translates now through the end of the game.
First pitch to Carlos Beltran with 348 career home runs. It's pretty good. You think about that, that's 6th all-time among switch hitters in the history of the game.
He's a complete player, man. I've always envied his swing and the balance that he possesses at the plate. When you look at the balance he has, left or right, I mean, it looks like the guy should never miss a baseball. He just has the perfect setup for me.
Having another solid year. 14 home runs, 42 RBIs. Last year, 32 home runs, 97 RBIs. Good breaking ball. Good breaking ball. Third strikeout now for Jose Fernandez. Let's check in with Craig Minervini.
Thank you, Tommy. Hey, we've got a catcher versus catcher matchup, which happens quite a bit because no position has more managers in Major League Baseball than the backstop. Both Mike Matheny and Mike Redmond spent 13 years in the majors. Matheny was more of a starter, so he had a lot more games played. But look at Red's average, 287, and Matheny's 239. 67 homers for Matheny. The interesting thing on this number, the fielding percentage, Mike Matheny had a record of 252 straight games without an error from 04 to 2010. Guess who broke that record? Yes, the guy on the right, Mike Redmond, broke it, but lost that streak after he beat that record by 1 game in 2010. He went 253 straight games, covering a longer span of time, 6-year time where he did not make an error. But it's interesting, guys, that so many catchers have become major league managers. They see the game, they have to be so involved in the game, and very often they make great strategic managers on the big league level.
Yeah, good stuff. 0-1 pitch fouled out of play. Each 42 years old, but Matheny a little bit older. And Matheny, because he had more games and was a little more of a regular player, 4 Gold Gloves on his mantle. But Red was a Gold Glove catcher. There was no question about that.
Well, Red kind of had to take a back seat for a little bit to a Gold Glove catcher in Charles Johnson. So, that was the only reason Red wasn't catching every day, because he had Charles Johnson ahead of him. When Charles Johnson moved on, Red became more of the everyday type catcher.
Count 1-2 to Matt Holliday. Holliday reached on an error, hard hit ball, a tough error by Ed Lucas at third in the first inning, and came in to score on the RBI base hit of Yadier Molina.
Talk about Mike Matheny as a manager. Got to learn from one of the best ever, Tony La Russa, over in their Cardinals dugout. He was under his tutelage for a little while and stepped right in there and took the Cardinals to the playoffs.
That's the amazing thing about this club. The Cardinal team they haven't missed a beat without La Russa, without Dave Duncan. They have John Mabry now. Mark McGuire's moved on as a hitting instructor. He's in L.A. So they just continue on.
That's a testament to the strength of that organization as a whole. I mean, they just go about business as usual and keep producing players that know how to play the game. 19 of 25 on the 25-man roster have only played their major league games with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Wow.
There's a culture there that's in place. We talked about it earlier, where guys definitely, when they put on that Cardinals uniform, they understand that it's about the team, it's about the game. So they have their personality as players, but they're going to be on time. They're going to work hard. They're going to run the bases. We highlighted Matt Holliday running the bases, getting that good jump. Matt Holliday wasn't that type of base runner when he was in Colorado, when he was in Oakland. That came along when he became a St. Louis Cardinal. When it's about the birds on the bat, things change.
He's fouled off some pretty good pitches. 2-2 on the way. High fastball. Let's see if Dobbs has room. He's there, just can't reach far enough.
It was probably the most telling to me is I was in a press conference last year in the NLCS, and Matt Holliday was being asked a question about the game, and he looked to Adam Wainwright to his right and Skip Schumacher to his right and said, when I came to St. Louis, these guys taught me how to play Cardinal baseball. And I'm thinking, this is Matt Holliday. This guy was a superstar when he came to St. Louis.
Ninth pitch misses a little low with the curveball, and it goes full 3-2.
The one thing Matt Holliday does, which is most good power hitters have the ability to do this. Once he gets late in the count, and not necessarily even 2 strikes, once he gets after 1 strike, he starts looking more on the outer half of the plate. So you might beat him in by jamming him with a fastball, but you're not going to get away with something outside.
Big sweeping breaking ball. Holliday will go back and think about that, AB. It was a long one. It was a 10-pitch at bat. But it ends in a strikeout, number 4 for Jose Fernandez.
That breaking ball kind of flattened out more. It wasn't the more up-down breaking ball that Fernandez can have. That ball was kind of almost like a backup kind of slider that flattened out on him.
That was kind of a fishy look there, too.
Sometimes.
You'd be here till Thursday?
I'd be here all the week.
Here's Alan Craig. Craig had an RBI single his first time up. I think the point you were making with this organization, now a guy like Holliday, when a younger Cardinal player comes up, they'll look to Matt Holliday.
Yes.
And that's how the veterans just kind of take over. And let the youngsters know.
You know, and the beauty of it is you spend less time worrying about non-baseball things. You know, I mean, you look at the Cardinals, they're the guys wear their pants down to their shoes. Some of them might have an extra button open. They don't worry about that type of stuff. You're allowed to have your personality. But the one thing you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to not play hard. You're not allowed to not be on time. You're not allowed to not be responsible for what you need to be accountable for. There's a level of accountability that comes when you step onto that field, when you step into that clubhouse. That's a given. It's not wondered about. It's a given.
That curveball's been a given the last couple of innings for Jose Fernandez. Strikeout number 5 for Jose. 1, 2, 3 go the Cards. We'll go to the bottom half the third. It's a 2-2 tie. Hey, how you doing? Hey, those are Lomo's MVPs. Getting a chance to enjoy the ball game. Compliments of Logan Morrison. Good stuff. And I think good stuff we've seen the last 2 innings after he got out of that first inning from Jose Fernandez. Westbrook, the Marlins have made him throw. And with a guy that's probably going to throw around 100 pitches, he's at 42 right now as Ed Lucas stands in.
Well, we saw the Marlins last inning kind of manufacture 2 runs in that situation, and we haven't seen them do that. For that, first 2 months of the season, we did not see them do that at all. And now that was such a great sign to see, get a couple guys on and be able to get 2 runs out of it. How many times do we see the Marlins get 2 guys on with nobody out and didn't score?
Yeah, Tino Martinez had to love those 2 runs. There's a shot right there on the line is David Freese. 1 down. Well, see your Marlins against the Cardinals on Saturday. Spectacular June 15th at 4:10. Remember, 4:10 start tomorrow. Get the all-you-can-eat seats for $27 and enjoy unlimited KM beef franks, peanuts, popcorn, nachos, Pepsis, and water. Plus, as part of Faith and Family Day, enjoy a live concert on the West Plaza after the game, presented by Metro Ford. Go to Marlins.com. Good sign there with Giancarlo nailing one and hitting it hard into right field.
Great piece of hitting right there by Giancarlo.
So that's what
Let's take another look at that ground ball by Lucas here, or line drive, I'm sorry. Look at that. It almost comes right through the glove of David Freese. Look where he's positioned, though. He's positioned right on the line. We saw him take a hit away from Jeff Mathis the inning prior because he is so close to the line. I think that's another great thing about the Cardinals' defense is positioning. They're positioning these guys in the right spot.
Well, when you have a ground ball pitcher who throws a lot of sinkers, a lot of times the smart managers will have that third baseman closer to the line.
I think a guy like Westbrook, 35 years old, veteran, you know where he's going to throw. He knows where most of his pitchers are going to go. A little easier to play defense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Westbrook before the game said, hey, freeze, get on the line a little bit. I'm going to be pitching these guys in. They're going to hit you a lot of ground balls over there.
Ozuna chases the 1-0 pitch, 1-1. There are the leaders in the National League defensively. Cardinals with just 25 errors. Of course, the Diamondbacks leading the West. And the Reds, 3.5 behind the Cardinals. So there's something to that defense stuff. Chopper to short. Will they get two? Nicely done. Will-turn double play. Cosma to Carpenter on over to first. Just like that, the Marlins are done. We'll go to the 4th inning. A 2-2 tie, and a few minutes ago Mike Redmond out to ponder the call by Tom Hallion, which turned out to be not a very good call. We had a couple of looks.
When I saw it full speed, I thought he beat it, but then when you see it in the slow motion, it looks even worse, of course, because of slow motion. But Ozuna's actually slowing down, decelerating because he knows he's safe, and the umpire just nonchalantly just punches him out right there.
He's not there. He finally gets it. He's breaking it down already.
So a missed call on that double play, 4th inning. Mike Redmond lost the argument. And the batter's Yadier Molina on one pitch, picked by Echeverria. And just like that, the National League's leading hitter is out.
Hey, talk about good defense. Echeverria has been some kind of bright spot on the left side of that infield for the Marlins. He's been absolutely outstanding. We had heard in the trade, they said, yes, he's going to be quite the glove man and as good, if not better, than Jose Reyes. And he's definitely lived up to that side of the bargain.
You know, he's made just 2 errors. And I think the thing that's been impressive as that curveball finds the strike zone to freeze, maybe not, ball 1. But the thing that's been impressive is that he's played great defense and hasn't hit. And that was a little bit of a worry in spring training.
Well, I think anytime you have a young guy who comes up and he's had offensive success as well as defensive success in the minor leagues, you wonder if he struggles offensively, will he take it out there on the defensive side with him? And that hasn't been a problem this year with Echeverria.
And all of a sudden, Jose Fernandez has fallen behind David Freese, 3-0. David Freese has hit in 28 of 33. Taken all the way, strike 1, 3-1 to Freese.
At only 279, he must have been struggling pretty good early He's hitting 28 out of 35.
3-1. Just misses somewhere.
He looked like he wanted to call that. You almost saw that arm flinch a little bit. He wanted to raise that right arm a little bit, but he held it down.
A little hesitation to Phil Cuzzy, the home plate umpire.
Watch him. He's getting ready to. And he says no.
And he made the right call. Pitch was just outside. First walk of the game for Fernandez. That brings up John Jay. Jay hit a little tap at first base his first time up, 0 for 1.
So John Jay is a guy that all these Cardinals like. He's a young guy, but they love the way he works. He's a guy he's always trying to learn, and they love that about him. And so he's a guy that even when he's struggling, his teammates are pulling for him because they know how hard he works. They know how much he wants to get better.
Line down the left field line, slicing away from Juan Pierre, and just drops foul. So
Just drops foul, thank goodness.
But John Jay, the 28-year-old out of Columbus High School of Miami, will have to head back to home plate. Marlins Live tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow's a 4 o'clock game, so Marlins Live will be on at 3:30. Greg Minervini and Cliff Floyd. And we've been asked back by popular demand for tomorrow's game. Jeff Conine, Preston Wilson, and myself.
Oh, let's see if they still feel the same after 9.
Popular demand or no other choice? I don't know. A or B?
I think it was that one. Yeah. The changeup misses away. 2-1 to John Jay. John Jay had 305 last year. Year before 297. So he's been a model of consistency. So that's when you see 247, you say, okay, he's not off to the kind of start that he's used to.
I don't know about you, Preston, but I couldn't even come close to making contact if I had this much movement in my swing.
No, I had to really simplify mine. I mean, you saw me. I couldn't even move my hands that much to be able to put the ball on the bat, and I swung and missed enough as more than anybody in the game when I was playing. So you add that in there, I'm setting all kinds of records for lack of contact.
I mean, just an amazing amount of motion in his swing.
We saw a lot of that from Ike Davis in New York.
Ike Davis, but the thing with Ike Davis is he has motion up top with his hands, and he has motions with the leg kick and the front hip staying open. So he's got a lot of things that he needs to retool. He's got tremendous ability, great power, but he needs to get back to some fundamentals of hitting to allow that ability to show.
Quick snap throw by Mathis, and getting back just ahead of the tag is David Freese. That was close, and that's a quick throw.
Had that pitch inside as well.
That's a weapon right there. That'll make a base runner shorten up a step.
Absolutely, and that's a tough play as a first baseman when you're in front of the bag like that, and you get a snap throw from the catcher to get back there far enough to put a tag on.
Then all of a sudden missing with that breaking ball. A couple of walks in this inning after the ground ball out that started things. So with one down, the Cardinals have runners at first and second. But Cosma, the number 8 hitter, Pete Cosma, and then Jake Westbrook, the pitcher.
Jose Fernandez really wanted that 2-2 pitch. I think he thought that was a strike, and it might have been.
The other thing that Jose has really demonstrated is his ability not to lose it on a bad call. I mean, I've seen him. You can kind of tell if he's questioning a call, but not like some pitchers will.
Well, I think it's a testament to all the adversity he's gone through as a young man. His voyage getting here, just all the things that he had to deal with. All these things, they don't seem as big to him. He's able to overcome them a lot more quickly because it's not that big of a deal. Bad call, big deal. I've been through worse. And I think sometimes we're a little bit spoiled with the way that we're treated here in America and the things that we have to deal with, that we make a lot more out of things than they really are. And I think his ability to overcome a bad call or a bad inning is a testament to the things that he's gone through. They don't seem as big to him.
He doesn't sweat the little things. Fastball fouled off, so after a couple of walks, he gets ahead quickly to Cosmo.
I love this quote, when he was in New York, made that first start, and They said, "Oh, were you nervous or afraid about facing David Wright in New York Mets?" He's like, I got on a boat when I was 16 and got shot at. You think I'm afraid of David Wright? It's nothing.
And that was no disrespect to David Wright.
Right.
Yeah.
But just puts things in perspective.
It reminds me of Ray Ordonez when he was with the Mets, and the fans would get on him about maybe not hitting as well or whatever. And he's like, "Come on, man." He's like, "If you guys knew anything of what I went through over there in Cuba, this is not a big deal. I can stand being yelled at. Yeah, I've been through a lot worse."
1-2 count to Pete Kozma, the Cardinals shortstop. Of course, they are without Rafael Furcal, who had Tommy John surgery. So Kozma, who even in the minor leagues was a career .230 hitter, he can play shortstop defensively. And when you have good pitches like that, you can put him away. And when you have the other offense around him, you can get away with a shortstop hitting in that area.
Absolutely.
6 strikeouts now for Jose.
I'm sure they just tell Pete Kozma, you just go out there and you play your defense. Don't even worry about what you're doing at the plate.
So that was a nice comeback after a couple of walks. And now Jake Westbrook, the pitcher, steps in.
Well, I think you're going to start seeing more shortstops in the game like a Pete Kozma. For a while, their baseball had gotten so power crazy and homer oriented that there were a lot of power-hitting shortstop that weren't in the game before. Now you're going to see a value being placed on a guy like a Pete Kozma, who plays that great, consistent defense, who may not be as good of a hitter, but he's going to save you runs on defense.
0-1 pitch fouled off. Speaking of shortstops, one of the premier shortstops in baseball, Troy Tulowitzki, second in the league in hitting, third in the league in home runs, and in the top 5 in RBIs. A broken rib. He's going to be on the disabled list 4 to 6 weeks, so a tough blow for the Rockies.
That's a shame.
0-2 breaking ball. See you later, Jake Westbrook. And after a couple of walks, Jose Fernandez comes back and strikes out Kozma and Westbrook. 7 strikeouts in the game. It's a 2-2 tie. We'll go to the bottom of the 4th. Miami Marlins baseball on Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Honda. Visit your Honda dealer for great lease and finance deals on fuel-efficient Hondas. And Kaiser University now offering degrees in sports management. Learn more at kaiseruniversity.edu. I tell you, it looks nice outside right now, and we know it always looks nice inside. But about an hour and a half before the game, there was a torrential downpour and storm outside. We were all sitting up here watching batting practice thinking, boy, do you remember what it used to be?
Jeez, what a nightmare. Look at this on the way down today. I hope that's a dashboard cam and not somebody on their phone trying to
and texting at the same time.
Yeah, crack
please.
staff is texting and videoing at the same time. Not a good idea.
Crack staff is about to become the crash staff.
Derek Dietrich to start things for the Marlins here in the 4th inning. Reached on the error by the second baseman, Matt Carpenter, his first time up. Fouls off a sinker from a guy who, Niner, you were 4 for 11 off of, Jake Westbrook. And Preston, you were 2 for 4 off Westbrook.
Oh, we killed this guy.
Did you go the other way? You had to go the other way against this guy.
I remember taking him up the middle. That's why I remember hitting him up the middle.
He's been a quality pitcher. 100 career wins. There's a shot hit by Dietrich, and that sinker gets up just a little bit. It is so hittable. Saturday baseball night in America returns as Robinson Cano and the Yankees head west to take on Mike Trout and the Angels. Baseball night in America begins Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Mike Trout is a guy I wish I could see a little bit more.
Like every day?
Yeah.
He seems like that kind of player that he loves to watch on a daily basis for everything that he can do. And how about the Angels?
Well, how about the Yankees just being swept by the Athletics in a 3-game series? And lost in 18 innings yesterday.
I mean, at the start of the day, the Angels were at 12 games back of Oakland in the AL West. That's when they put that payroll together and they had that offseason plan. That was nowhere in their vision to be 12 games back of anybody at any point in the season.
Yeah, I was there with them. I thought they were going to steamroll that division with that offense they put together and those 3 guys in the middle of that lineup. I thought this is going to be a pretty potent offense, but baseball has a funny way of exposing weaknesses.
Yeah, we kind of all know what that's about. Here's the situation, by the way, with Echeverria. As you look at the West Division in the American League, Oakland with a nice win streak, mentioning just sweeping the Yankees. Texas still right there. And the amazing surprise, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Here's the situation. I think it depends on where the count goes, but I think it's a formula for a hit and run. You got a little speed at first. You have a guy in Echeverria who has shown lately that he's hit the ball much better, able to move it to the right side. Echeverria with a base hit tonight, 1 for 1.
And you have a pitcher who wants you to hit the ball. He wants you to put the ball in play.
This is a little bit low. Good take by Echeverria, 2-0. Last 7 games for Etch. He's hit over 300. It's been a gradual turnaround.
You know, right before he got hurt, he was swinging the bat really well, though. So, you know, hopefully he's just getting back to that feeling he had before he got injured. But I saw I want to say his last maybe 10 to 15 at-bats before he got injured. And I was really thinking to myself, if this kid stays here, he's got a chance to be a good offensive player.
All right, here's a good count, 2-1. See what happens. Dietrich not going to second, back to first, not in time. I don't think a play was on. Dietrich took a couple of steps like he was going to take off, and then he didn't.
Yeah, I don't think he did take off or fake like he was taking off and stopped.
The ball was chopped, so it wasn't really a double play ball.
Yeah, it was one of those where it almost looked like nobody was really sure of the sign. Or I should say Dietrich wasn't really sure of the sign. It was like he stepped and it was like, oh, maybe it wasn't a hit and run. But then when you look at Echeverria's swing, he almost swung at it like it was a hit and run.
It would have been interesting to see if he was going, who was going to cover. Because Echeverria, I think, is more prone to hit the ball the right side. Would Carpenter have stayed home, you think? Or you think Cosma would have stayed home?
We'll never know.
Because normally, on a right-handed hitter, Cosma stays home, he goes to cover, that's a base hit.
0-1 to Greg Dobbs. Dobbs hit a ground ball to second his first time up. sinker, two-seamer, outside corner, 0-2.
Westbrook is one of those guys that lefties know they have to get the ball close to them in order to really have a chance of success, because when it's away, he's really good on that third base side of keeping the ball down. So they're going to have to get a pitch like Dietrich to get a ball that's more in the middle or inside to that left-handed hitter, and that way the ball doesn't have as much sinking action as it does when he throws the ball on the third base side of the plate.
Yeah, and he's got enough of a fastball. He's 90, 91, where he can come inside, too, to keep you honest. Jake Westbrook was an all-star back in 04 with the Cleveland Indians. He was a solid part of that tribe rotation for a number of years. And I think an interesting mix in the rotation for the Cardinals because of the type of pitcher he is. They have Shelby Miller, hard thrower, young guy, he fires. Adam Wainwright get great stuff, won his 10th game yesterday. Lance Lynn, the Marlins will see Lance Lynn tomorrow. He's a hard thrower. And all the Cardinal pitchers pinpoint control.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's also key to having a good defense. When you play behind pitchers who throw the ball where they're supposed to, a lot of the time guys hit the ball where they're supposed to. So that helps your defense out. You know, there was a lot made about Andre Jones being a great center fielder, and I honestly believe he was a great center fielder, but he was aided by playing behind a pitching staff that made you hit the ball where they wanted you to hit the ball. There was very few times where you saw Andre Jones playing in the right center gap, having to go to the left center gap to make a play.
Echeverria on the move, and the ball just drops in foul territory. Yeah, the Cardinals lead the league in fewest walks. So
that's a great point, because when we have our pregame meetings, defensive meetings, you know, you go over as an outfielder, all right, you're going to be straight up on this guy or 2 steps toward the line. But that's based on the projected plan of where the pitcher's going to pitch him.
Right.
Now, if they're missing their spots, that all just gets thrown out the window.
Give me a couple of pitchers who you played behind, that you knew if you played there, you had a good chance to get some balls.
Oh, one of the best for me wasn't even a hard thrower, a guy named Jeff Suppan. He was a guy that when he was on.
Was that when you were with the Cardinals?
When I was with the Cardinals, yeah. When he was on, I knew where the ball was going to be hit. I'd say 85-90% of the time, because he would always hit his spots.
For me, Mike Mussina was a good one. That guy
good control.
Did not miss his spot very often. And it was a very lonely night out in left field when either Kevin Brown or Al Leiter pitched. Very lonely.
Kevin Brown had that nasty sinker like Westbrook, only but it was about 95, 96 miles.
Hold on a second. My thumb just started throbbing as soon as you said Kevin Brown. It's
like Pavlov's dogs up here. You do that, and all of a sudden, ow! Why does my thumb hurt?
Jeez.
I was glad I was on his team. And then he went to the other league.
1-2 to Dobbs, misses, 2-2. The Cardinals got 2 runs in the top of the first inning off Jose Fernandez. Got 3 hits in the inning. One of the runs was unearned. Marlins came back, scored 2 runs in the second inning. And that's where we stand right now, a 2-2 tie.
And we mentioned the fact on why we thought Jose Fernandez is going to be a star is because he made an adjustment after that first inning. He was kind of all over the place, missing his spots.
Oh, sweet
nice
stroke
hitting
by Greg Dobbs.
That's a on the move.
He's going to be waved home by Espada. And on that base hit by Greg Dobbs, the Marlins take the lead 3-2. What's amazing what can happen when you get some runners in motion. Great at bat by Dobbs. He stayed with it, went the other way. Beautiful.
Boy, talk about an almost impossible pitch to hit. This ball is off the plate away. Look at that. Perfection.
Couple of things good there too. Echeverria, who was on the move, was able to pick up the ball.
Very key. He found the ball early. That let him finish up and score that run.
It's another thing for up-and-comers out there. When you are stealing a base, peek in there and look and see what's going on, because if your head's down and the crack of the bat goes, you could be a dead duck, or you could be able to score. But you need to find that ball.
And if you look and you can't find the ball, pick up the third base coach. He'll tell you where it is. You have to trust him. But if you look and you don't know where it is, get your eyes right away to that third base coach. He'll let you know what's happening.
100 career doubles. So Greg Dobbs with great hitting. I mean, Westbrook worked him in and out and actually hit a pitch that was probably off the plate, out of the strike zone.
Well, that's a hitter understanding what the pitch is trying to do to him. He knew Westbrook was going to go to that sinker to try to get him out, and he was able to get a good piece of the bat on the ball. That's really, like you said, Niner, that's an impossible pitch to hit right there. Somehow he made it possible, but that pitch is not supposed to be hit, and definitely not for a double down the line.
Westbrook might have a hard time doing that, but he'll probably tip his cap to Greg Dobbs on that. He threw that exactly where he wanted to.
You know what? A couple of veterans, Dobbs, Westbrook. Last year, Westbrook won 13 games with the Cardinals.
That's one of those you're right. He's just going to look back and he's going to say, there's nothing I did wrong right there. I did everything I was supposed to. I got the ball down. I got it just off the plate. I just got beat by a good swing.
He'll say a lucky swing.
Well, pitchers always say lucky swing. You know, that's a whole nother conversation to be had.
Of course, the Cardinals last year had that wild card win against the Braves, beat the Nationals in the division series, and then lost to the Giants in the championship series, the eventual World Series winners.
Well, that series against the Nationals, that's where Pete Cosmo became a name that everybody knew about. He got that big hit in the extra innings to put the Cardinals into the next stage.
So for Mike Matheny in his rookie season as a manager, pretty good success. 3-2 pitch. Misses to Mathis, and that'll bring up Jose Fernandez with one out. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Miami Marlins. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and the descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Miami Marlins.
That's a great at-bat by Jeff Mathis there. Hitting 8th in the lineup in a National League lineup is probably the most difficult place to hit, especially with a guy on second base open. You know he's probably going to be nibbling, not giving you a whole lot to hit, and he worked the count and made him throw a few pitches. Nice job.
And the key to that at-bat, as you've seen time and time again, is the first couple of pitches. If you show that you're going to swing yourself out of the at-bat, they'll let you. But if you show that you're going to be patient and you're able to work the count in your favor in those first 2 or 3 pitches, they'll just go ahead and pitch around you and walk you. They're not going to mess around with you.
Well, let's see if Jose's bunting again. He's the kind of hitter. He swings the bat good enough that you don't necessarily have to put the bunt on.
But I like the fact that he's got the bat out in front. Well, that time he pulled it back a little bit, but I like the fact he squared around early. There's one thing that I have seen with the Marlins guys that are bunting. They don't get the bat to the front of the zone. They hold it so close to their chest that they end up having to try to manipulate the bat. If you get the bat out in front of the strike zone and just try to catch it on the bat, you're going to bunt the ball fair more often.
Quick conversation with Joe Espada. Sometimes if you're not sure, that's probably the best way to do it. Just talk to the third base coach.
There's no penalty in baseball for calling that timeout to talk to the hitter.
Right in front of the plate, a fair ball was called, and just like that, the Marlins are out of the inning. We'll be back for more Marlins baseball after this sports injury prevention message from Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Lead as we go to the top of the 5th inning. Jose Fernandez gets loose. He's had a nice assortment of breaking balls tonight.
Well, you know, we looked at him and we see a difference in a breaking ball tonight. Tonight it's a little bit more flat than a breaking ball that we've seen in his first few starts. See, earlier in New York, the ball is going more up to down, that 12-6 motion. Definitely a more sharp top to bottom type break. Tonight it's a little bit more flat. It's got more of a left to right action on it than the up to down. You know, and right there you can tell Holiday actually swung under that breaking ball, which is something you don't see guys do because he was expecting that ball to break more down. Holiday actually swung under the breaking ball.
Well, you see the line: 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs. Just one of those runs earned and 7 strikeouts. I think the key to all of those strikeouts, even the ones we saw from a few starts ago, regardless of if they're 12-6 or east to west, they still have bite. They're not rollers. They don't float.
Big time bite. It looks like the distance it's traveling tonight from right to left is pretty big. And I wonder, and I'd like to ask him this after the game, if that's an intentional thing he's doing. I don't feel the 12-6er, so I'm going to go more slurvy and try to break it out of the strike zone.
You know, sometimes, and this is going way back, so this is not like I really have any recent experience, but I used to pitch in high school, and sometimes I would have better control of the slider because it was breaking left to right, and the curveball I couldn't keep in the strike zone as much. So maybe he's doing it, trying to flatten out his breaking ball to be throw more strikes with it. And we saw in the first time through the lineup when he got to the pitcher, the first breaking ball he threw him was more of that slurvy type breaking ball and not the 12-6er. So maybe he's throwing that to be able to have more control and throw more strikes.
Well, I think the key right here too is this 3rd time around now for the Cardinals. 3rd time for Carpenter up there, singled, struck out.
And I promise you fans at home that will be the last time I reference my high school pitching.
Hey, Preston, we all pitched in high school.
Now you don't like that either. Make up your mind. I didn't think he went. He didn't think he went.
I think Phil Cuzzy, we didn't need any explanation. He let us know.
Up here, it looked like he went, but I'm not gonna argue with him.
Don't tell Phil Cuzzy.
He might yell at me too.
Here's the pitch that they're arguing on.
Ooh,
he would have hit a double if he hit that.
Yeah, I saw that. Looked like the bat head went a little too far to the front of the zone there.
Cuzzy saying, I didn't think he went. He didn't think he went, meaning Ron Kulpa at 3rd. Now the counts run full 3-2. Didn't need anybody's help there. Boy, that was a nasty breaking ball. Strikeout number 8.
Yeah, I got to think he probably wish he would have swung at that one, judged by that reaction.
That's called getting locked up. I don't think that was Phil Cuzzy. We'd like to apologize for that. Carlos Beltran, no problem on that first pitch. And lines a base hit into left field. Jose Fernandez with 8 strikeouts has a season high, obviously career high, 9 strikeouts in his May 4th game in Philadelphia. Let's check in and see what Craig Minervini has for us.
Thank you very much. We're with the Make-A-Wish night here. 250 people, all part of this big night tonight, including Richard Kelly, the COO of Make-A-Wish tonight. It's a great night that you hooked up with the Marlins, and a couple of special kids are out here tonight too, having a lot of fun.
We're having a lot of fun. It's the 2 kids throwing out the first pitch, and they got to drop the rosin back, play ball, lineup card, and we got a lot of people here. It's really a lot of fun.
I'm going to get back to you about one other thought, but first I want to say hi to Antonio Ferreira, who today got a chance to hang out with Derek Dietrich. Tell me what else you did out there, because I know you had a great day. For a Marlin fan, this was a wish and a wish come true, huh?
Yes, the day was terrific today. I played a catch with him. I went into the locker room. He showed me everything around. He even autographed a bat for me.
That was nice, and your pal got to hang out with Giancarlo Stanton in right field. Did you go out to the mound too? You threw the first pitch out?
Yeah, it was awesome.
I heard it was a pretty good pitch.
Pretty good.
What surprised you most about being around the major league scene? Did you see this potential double play? We're going to have to get back to that one. As that'll wrap up the inning. We'll come back, talk more on Make-A-Wish night here as we go to the bottom of the 5th. Had a Make-A-Wish day. Why did you want the Marlins to be your Make-A-Wish dream?
Because I love the Marlins. I'm a die-hard Marlin fan. Been watching them since 2008, around there.
Good for you. Battling leukemia, you're doing well, you look good, and keep going, all right?
Thank you very much.
All right, I want to talk to Richard about one thing, too, about Make-A-Wish, because I think in the past, people always thought it was terminal patients, and that's not the case, and there may be people out there who don't realize that Make-A-Wish is really available for anybody with life-threatening illness.
Yeah, life-threatening medical conditions, and it's a terminology that we use, and a significant amount of our kids live long lives, and we want people to know that. And it's a positive message, and we want people and parents to refer their children.
Make-A-Wish they have a terrific banquet every year. That's still going strong. It's a great fundraiser. If there's someone out there who might be interested, how would they find out about Make-A-Wish if it's right for their family?
They can visit our website at sfla.wish.org. It's sfla.wish.org. You can call us at 888-773-WISH. And actually, right now we're doing a text to give promotion. You can make a $5 donation by texting the word STAR to 50555. That's STAR to 50555. You can make a $5 donation right now to help fund wishes like Antonio's and all the other kids that we have waiting for wishes.
That is great. How long has Make-A-Wish been around now?
We've been around nationally, internationally, more than 30 years. We're coming up on our 30th year locally, and we just granted our 9,000th wish here locally in South Florida, so we're really proud of that.
Did you have a wish for a Juan Pierre double?
Yeah, we'll wish for doubles, home.
You got it.
Any extra base hit.
Thank you, Richard. Antonio, thank you very much. We'll let you watch the game because our camera's right in your way now, isn't it? Okay. Guys, let's go back to you.
It's good stuff, Craig. And there's a nice double for Antonio by Juan Pierre. JP with his second hit tonight, starting things off in the 5th inning. A good way to start. And a guy that we've seen who's coming up next, Ed Lucas, who's been able to move runners over.
Yeah, he's been really doing well at handling the bat. You can see him right now. He's going to put a bunt down or try to hit that ball to the right side of the infield.
Boy, couldn't get out of the way. He was trying to bunt.
Lucas said it hit his hand.
The base hit that Beltran got last inning was the first since the first inning. You're not going to win this this argument.
Yep, hit him right on the hand.
If the hand's on the bat, though, it's part of the bat.
Well, let's see. Did it hit the bottom?
Ouch.
Oh, yeah, that hit the bottom part of the hand. That's what I was thinking, yeah.
That has to be a tough call for any umpire, though.
It is.
Because you hear that tick and you think foul ball.
Surprisingly, they won that argument.
He's changing the call.
Well, I think the only reason he won that argument is because Lucas was able to show his hand.
The seam marks on his knuckles.
There's a bruise on his hand. And that is a tough call because look at it. He's got a black bat, black batting gloves. So it's hard for the umpire to differentiate what it is in that fast of action. We get the benefit.
I think he got him on the forearm, and that's what they were able to see. Tick that forearm.
Well, we get the benefit of the replay, so that helps us out. But when he's holding a black bat, he's got on black batting gloves. You know, and the ball's coming 90 miles an hour. That's tough for the umpire to be able to see that. But at least they got the call right, which is all we want. Whether it goes in the Marlins' favor or not, they got the call right, and I think that's what most baseball people want.
And I think Mike Matheny understood that because he didn't put up a real big argument. So now it sets the stage with nobody out, first and second for Giancarlo. Stanton singled to right field back in the third inning, so he's hitting 4 straight since coming back.
Tommy, there's something I guarantee you right here. Giancarlo will not be bunting.
He's not going to be bunting. Westbrook works inside, misses ball 1. I think one of the things that I've noticed in Stanton, and I think we've seen it the last couple of years, he's just gotten better at identifying pitches in the strike zone and pitches out of the strike zone.
Says their bullpen phone's not working.
Something's not working.
Apparently
I thought he said the bullpen phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the Cardinals are trying to make a call down to their bullpen, and they might have to call the Clevelander and have them relay the message.
Well, they might not be able to hear the phone ring because the Clevelanders' music is too loud.
Well, now in this situation, do the Marlins also have to disconnect their phone until the Cardinals' bullpen phone starts to work again?
So I think they're trying to make sure theirs is working. Guys, the bullpen, there's Randy Choate. You got a couple of former Marlins down there. Edward Mujica and Choate. I think the Clevelander phone is working quite well.
Remember back in the day, Tommy, when they didn't have phones down in the dugout and they'd have to do sign language?
Yeah.
Those were the good old days.
Oh, there's some great signs for some of the pitchers down there in the bullpen.
Joe Kelly gets up quickly, so he got the message.
I like the fact that everyone had their own sign.
You had the big lefty, the short righty.
The left-hander sign was given with the left hand, and the right-hander sign was given with the right hand, and there were some good ones back then.
Stanton sitting on a 1-0 pitch. Westbrook twice has tried to work him inside and missed.
See, I think that single to right field has really given Giancarlo Stanton a great chance to have a good at bat here, because now that changes Westbrook's thinking. You got a power hitter up that's willing to go the other way. He's willing to take that single the other way. Now he's going to have to change what he wants to do here.
Look where Carlos Beltran is playing Giancarlo Stanton.
I can barely see him.
He might be on the outside of the wall in St. Louis.
And speaking of a wall, Westbrook may have hit a wall. He gave up the double. He hit a batter. He's missed 3 times now, 3-0 to Stanton. So the Cardinal bullpen, Joe Kelly's working quickly down there.
You know, we said it's his first start since I think May 8th. They said his first start, so there could be a little bit of fatigue going here.
You knew the green light was on. The green light was on into the gap in left center. JP comes in to score. Here comes Lucas. He scores. Giancarlo Stanton with a double, 2 RBIs, and it's a 5-2 lead.
Ladies and gentlemen, there aren't many guys in the league that can turn around a fastball the way this guy can. And when it gets going in the other direction, it is going at an extreme pace.
It gets by the defense so quickly, whether it be a ground ball, line drive. Look at this swing right here. This is not an easy thing to do. Hitting 3-0, everyone thinks, oh, you're probably going to get a fastball. And I very seldom swung 3-0 because I got too amped up. I knew I'd probably overswing at a pitch like that. He keeps it under control. It's actually not that bad a pitch. And I think he hit it a little bit off the end, but still almost knocked the right or the left field wall down.
It's something that we try to explain to people all the time. How hard he hits the ball, how hard he hits ground balls, how hard he hits line drives and home runs. But he hit that ball, as you said, maybe not on the screws, and it still got into that gap in a hurry.
Let's watch him take BP, and with no effort whatsoever, he's popping him out of right field time after time, upper deck. And when you've got a crowd from the other team standing out there to watch him take BP, you know you're doing something special.
It's fun to watch the other team sometimes they're stretching or they're out a little early, they stop and they watch.
And shake their head.
Now let's see if Ozuna's thinking move the runner over. Sometimes this will help a swing. Ozuna won for his last 13. Let's see if he's thinking that. Westbrook's thinking that. He worked him inside first pitch. Ball 2.
What's your thought? I mean, for me, with a guy, my fourth place hitter with a 3-run lead in the middle innings, I want him to try and drive that ball.
Yes, I want him to
try and drive that guy in.
I don't want him thinking just get the guy over at this point. You know, especially you want him to get back on track. You say, look, you find something that you like to hit, you just smash. It doesn't matter where it goes.
I'll be devil's advocate. I think it depends on who your fourth place hitter is. I think if Stanton was hitting there, yeah. But I think because it's a rookie who's in a little bit of a struggle. I don't say a lot, just a little bit.
It depends on the player, too.
Yeah.
I know when I was struggling, I would definitely try to hit that ball over the right side because I didn't think I could get a hit. So I'm going to try to help the next guy get that guy in. So I would take it upon myself.
And sometimes you would get a hit doing
absolutely.
that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Obviously, with that last swing, he's not thinking that.
He's not thinking about moving it over.
Well, that was always my fallback. Whenever I started struggling, I had to go back. I wasn't good enough to try to just start driving the ball. I had to go back to hitting the ball the other way first, and then do that progression of then start being able to drive the ball. That was my how I recovered, because I couldn't be at 10, and then once I started struggling, I couldn't start back at a 6 or 7. I had to go back down to 0, 1, 2, and that to me is letting the ball get to me as much as possible, trying to see the ball as long as possible and hit the ball the other way.
Counts 2-2 to Ozuna. There he goes. That's a good swing there. Pretty good arm in right field, and you also don't want to chance the hamstring of Giancarlo Stanton. Now it's time for the Just for Men Auto Stop Foolproof Stat. Yadier Molina, catcher ranked since 2004. First in caught stealing, second in games caught. RBIs, that might be fifth, but he's gotten a lot of key clutch RBIs for the Cardinals. Terrific player.
Crack staff came up with A.J. Pierzynski as the only guy that's caught more games.
Hard shot foul.
Sometimes you just got to make a business decision and get out of the way. Can we see this one again? Because, I mean, he deserved this ball because he hung in there and tried to catch this. And sometimes you just got to move. This is called wearing it right here. Oh.
You think he's going to bruise on that one?
He's bruised right now.
He's going to have some seam marks. 0-2, Westbrook ahead of Derek Dietrich, who's 1 for 2. Dietrich has scored twice.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Don't rub it. Don't rub it. Don't you rub it.
Oh, he's out, he said.
Baby, we're going to have to go home. We can't stay for the rest of the game.
2 hopper picked by Cosma. Dietrich's out on the play. Stanton moves over to third. That's the second out. That's time for our FPL scores around the league. Let's see what's going on in baseball. How about the Pittsburgh Pirates continue to play well? They found out A.J. Burnett has to go on the disabled list, though.
Cincinnati knotted up with Milwaukee 2-2. Chicago at 5-1 over New York. San Francisco 3-1 over Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta's finally showing some signs over there. In the NL East, they're leading, but today they're losing. And Arizona and San Diego are yet to be on the way. Started 10-10.
Got to stay up a little later for that one. Danny Echeverria, 1 for 2 tonight. One hopper right back to Westbrook. He's a pretty good fielder. Almost threw it away at first base, but that's all for the Marlins. But the big hit in the inning, the 2-run double by Stanton. Marlins take a 5-2 lead. Will go to the 6th.
disponible por SAP. Que no uno, sino dos teléfonos para
it's
ocuparse.
Cookie and Raul. It's our opportunity to talk to the guys over on the SAP telecast. How you guys doing? I got Preston and Conine with me.
I'm outnumbered today, guys.
How about that?
I got all these analysts all around.
Yeah,
analysts everywhere.
Everywhere I look, there's an analyst.
That's right, Raul. Watch your back. We are down the hallway from you. Cookie, let us know if you need a little help.
Oh, no, that's it. I got to behave. That's Preston talking. That's the bad man right there.
Yes, sir.
All right, Cookie, I got one for you. It seems like every time Jose Fernandez pitches, we see something that has impressed us, that impresses us that maybe didn't impress us before. What's he done tonight?
Well, I think that he has great control of his breaking ball tonight for strikes. He's locating his fastball. He's not afraid to throw it to some of the hitters that eventually in the first inning got hit by fastball. He threw it right back to Matt Holliday and struck him out. And I think he's just it looks like a veteran pitcher on the mound, not a rookie.
That's good stuff. Missing there. Counts 1-1 to Alan Craig. The other impressive thing, he gave up 3 hits in the first inning. And the base hit by Beltran in the 5th inning was the first hit the Cardinals had gotten since that first.
Well, total control of all these pitches, and no question about it that he has the confidence in himself, no matter whether he's facing the #1 club in the Central and in everything, in pitching and hitting and all that. But he's saying to himself, hey, I'm as good as they are. I'm going to challenge them, and he has done it perfectly.
Including 7 of 8 strikeouts after those 3 hits in the first inning, Tommy. Including the lineazo duro por el medio.
Yeah, that's a linea, no question about that.
That was good, Tommy.
By
good.
Alan Craig, yeah. I didn't hit many lineas, but I used to hear other guys say that.
No, you hit it quite a few too, Tommy.
All right, hey, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good rest of this
too,
game.
guys.
Adios,
sure.
amigos.
Thank
Hasta
you.
luego.
All right, Senor Wilson. Adios, Jeff.
Bueno, tremendo lineazo.
All right, a leadoff base hit by Alan Craig. He hit the ball hard. And that brings up Yadier Molina. Infield at double play depth. I think one of the big pitches that Jose made was in the 5th inning. Got the double play ball from Matt Holliday.
Well, you know, we talked about Holliday, and the one thing he will do is he will give up the big swing on the inside part of the plate, and that's how you can beat him in his at-bats, because he's looking to drive the ball the other way. He's looking to hit the ball in the gaps, and if you have enough velocity, you can get yourself a ground ball or even a strikeout in against him late in the count.
Good fastball. The 96 miles an hour is still there for Jose Fernandez. If he can make a pitch and get Molina to hit a ball on the ground, he has a chance to get another double play.
Yeah, the Molina brothers as a whole are probably the slowest family in Major League Baseball.
I think Yadier would be the anchor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Benji was. You could use a sundial to time him down to
No,
first base.
Yadier the anchor, the fastest.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
No, Benji would lead off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You could time Benji
You
by
could kick it,
seasons.
fall down, go to sleep, and still throw him out at first base.
The brothers Molina. Tell you what, man, that's a great baseball family, though. They all can catch. They all have great knowledge of the game. Nobody really thought Yachty was going to be the better hitter out of all of them, but now he's turning out to be the best offensive of all the brothers.
Benji was there for a while. He was an excellent hitter. And how about their house at Christmas time? The stories they can tell. Major League Baseball, and 3 of your...
Father passed away a couple years ago, but was a great teacher in Puerto Rico. There are statues of each Molina at a ballpark that they fund for kids and make sure the lights are good, the field's in good shape. They do that all the time.
I tell you, I feel like I was fortunate to play with him. And even though he wasn't the offensive player that he is now, when I played with him, he was just as good defensively. And just to see the work that he puts in, there's not a catcher in all of baseball that's more prepared than Yadier Molina.
Runner on the move on the 3-2 pitch. Giancarlo drifts into foul territory and makes a catch. 1 down. Don't miss Family Sunday on June 16th as your Marlins battle the Cardinals at 1:10. Get the Pepsi 4 for $54 pack and celebrate Father's Day at the ballpark. Plus, dads, get a Marlins fedora hat courtesy of Preferred Care Partners, and kids can run the bases after the game in Diamond Dash. Go to Marlins.com for tickets. Marlins baseball, dive in. Do you have the fedoras or does Cliff?
Oh, I have some fedoras at home. I think Cliff might have some too. I don't know, but Cliff might be more of like a Kango Tam type guy. He likes to keep his dome covered a little bit, but he can sport the hats. But I do have some fedoras at home. I will break them out if I need to. Do I need to bring them to the ballpark?
No, you're styling good enough. I mean, you don't need the hat.
We don't need to look any worse next to you, all right? Just stay basic, please.
I mean, from the bow tie to the socks. 0-1 to David Freese. There's a good pitch. Another fastball, and that's the other thing. I think in all the games we've seen Jose Fernandez, he's maintained the velocity on his fastball even to the last pitch that he's thrown.
We saw a pitch last at bat or two at bats ago to Craig that was 91 miles an hour. Looks like he just tried to throw a two-seamer inside. He swung right over the top of it.
It just puts him away with a beautiful breaking ball. That ties his season high, so his career high now in strikeouts is 9.
I think it may be by design that he's throwing more of a slurvy type breaking ball. We took a look at the breaking balls early in the year that were more 12-6. He seems to have a lot more control with this type of breaking ball. He's throwing a lot more strikes with it tonight.
Let's put this in perspective. He's 20 years old. The team he's pitching against leads the league in batting average, is second in the league in runs, just second by 1. Colorado scored 1 more. This is a good hitting team, and he has 9 strikeouts, has given up 2 runs, 1 earned, 1 unearned, and those came in the first inning.
And like we said, that first inning, Tommy, we made the mention, like, why or what kind of adjustment will he make when he goes into that dugout, and he worked it out. I'm sure Jeff Mathis has a lot to do with this. He's an outstanding catcher, and they went in there in that dugout after the top of the first and said, hey, this is what we did, this is what we need to change, and he went out there and executed changes, and he's pretty much shut the Cardinals down since that first inning.
And some change is not always easy for a major league player, because sometimes players can get stuck in the, well, I've always done it this way. And maybe he's young enough that he's still malleable enough that he's willing to change, willing to make adjustments, but it's also a credit to him to believe in Mathis or believe with whoever that he's working with to say, you know what, I can do this and still have success because I still have the talent to do it. I don't have to do it one particular way.
And he also has an RBI single in the game. And he's probably, knowing the way he is, he's probably still steamed that he didn't get that bunt down and bunted into a double play.
Absolutely. Word of the day, though, malleable from Preston Wilson.
Yeah.
That was excellent.
3-1 pitch popped out of play. John Jay, the hitter. Jay's 0 for 1. Grounded to first, walked.
Interesting that no one's warming up in the Marlins bullpen as Jose Fernandez is up around 92 pitches now. Early on, 80 was his limit. He would only go to 80. We saw him go to 99 one game, then back under 80 the next few starts, and at 92 right now, no one's getting loose.
Unless Redmond feels he has the half inning when the Marlins hit to get somebody up. You look ahead to the inning. Fernandez is the third batter when the Marlins bat.
I think there's just such a difference in the opinion of how he's going.
Oh, this ball's stroked. Breaking ball hit well over the head of Ozuna. Stays in the gap. That'll easily score Craig from first base. John Jay with an RBI double makes it a 5-3 ball game. It's one of the few breaking balls that rolled and didn't have that sharpness and stayed up a little bit.
You can tell it on his face too. He's disappointed that he didn't get that ball down. But that's what the Cardinals do. We talked about it earlier, late in the count. They try to stay in the middle of the ball field. That ball was a breaking ball that was kind of backdoor. He stayed on it long enough, and it was up enough for him to put a good swing on it.
Well, we talk about it so often. The gaps are big, and any ball into the gap is going to score somebody from first base easily. That'll bring up Pete Kozma, the shortstop. Hard hit, scooped up. Nice pick by Echeverria. And just like that, Kozma is done. So are the Cardinals in the 6th inning. They get a run. Marlins still have a lead. It's 5-3 Fish. working in the Cardinal bullpen, so we had to call the Clevelander just to make sure we put camera 12 on it so the phones are working in the Clevelander. I'm Tommy. This is Preston. That's Niner right there. And we're having fun tonight, aren't we, with a little analyst work?
It's a great time. I'm having a good time.
I mean, I think this to me may be the best booth we've had all year, but maybe I'm a little biased, you know.
I hope Rich isn't watching right now.
Come on, Rich. Butchie, we love you, but come on, man. You got 3 guys in here, 3 old ball players in here having a little fun together. It's a fun night.
That's right. That's right. Well, and the Marlins have a lead, 5-3. And it looks like that's probably going to be all for Jose. I don't know, though. He's putting on a helmet. We'll find out. There is a new pitcher for the Cardinals, though, and he is right-hander Joe Kelly.
Well, I don't see anybody throwing in the bullpen yet. I see some guys walking around, maybe getting loose, but I don't see anybody.
I'll tell you what, somebody would be throwing right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Greg Dobbs leading things off. Dobbs with a terrific at bat in the 4th inning. Doubled off Westbrook down the left field line, driving in a run, and it was a pitch that was a great pitcher's pitch.
That's, I mean, you can't get really a better piece of hitting than that one. That ball was off the plate, down and away, sinking away, and he got enough bat on it to put it into left field.
Joe Kelly spent some time with the Cardinals last year. 24 games, 16 starts. So he's been used in a couple of different capacities. A lot of fastballs and sliders.
You know, the thing I like about the Dobbs hit is that's a type of pitch, that type of swing can be as devastating as a home run because it can actually make a pitcher start second guessing himself or even wonder if maybe he's tipping something because that pitch isn't supposed to be hit. When you get a hit on that and driving a run, pitchers, they're creatures of habit. That pitch isn't supposed to be hit, so then they start to wonder, why did that pitch get in? Am I doing something that made him look for that ball?
Little off-speed breaking ball has Dobbs reaching. He was a little out front of that pitch. Fly ball into center field, 1 down.
See how shallow John Jay's playing right there. Jim Edmonds brought that over to the Cardinals organization, and ever since then, most of their center fielders play fairly shallow.
All right, Preston, this is your favorite. Coors Light Freeze Camp. Freeze Camp brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. Check it out. Let's see the slide. Let's see the slide.
Oh, yeah. Back of the bag, get the hand in there, make the fielder have to reach a little bit further for it. Oh, yeah. That's where those little inches are made up. When you're talking about baseball being a game of inches and stealing bases, that's where you make that up.
Jeff Mathis trying to find that gap in left center. Looks like he has. He's found the deep gap. Mathis with 1 triple this year decides to pull up at second base.
Boy, as shallow as John Jay's playing, he got back to that ball pretty quickly and got it in. I thought it was a definite triple. Jeff Mathis puts a charge in this one right in the deepest part of this ballpark. John Jay does a great job of getting back there and getting it in.
Mathis has 5 hits this year, 3 doubles and a triple.
So that ball is hit hard, and you pretty much feel like no matter where that center fielder was playing, that ball is going to be a double anyway because that ball was scalded.
15,403 on hand tonight. Always a number of Cardinal fans. And enjoying, probably not the Cardinal fans, but the Marlins fans enjoying a 5-3 lead. And they're certainly enjoying the show that Jose Fernandez is putting on. Remember, Fernandez singled in a run in the 2nd inning. That tied the game, 2-2.
We have seen him have a multiple hit game this year with an RBI.
He has 5 hits on the year. Really would love to, and I know you guys get an opportunity. We'll all be down on the field tomorrow before the game, but to talk to some of the Cardinal hitters because they faced Matt Harvey yesterday and just get their thoughts on the 2 pitchers, Harvey and Fernandez, back-to-back games.
Oh, you better believe those two lineups, anybody who has friends on the opposing team, they're going to be talking to each other and talking about their experiences. I know I did it when you face maybe a Pedro or a Schilling, guys where we talk, well, which guy did you think was nasty, or Kevin Brown. Whenever you face those top line guys, whether they be young or old, when you run across a team, you're going to talk about them.
On that fly ball, that's the second out of the inning. You have the feeling Juan Pierre may be a little patient here just to allow Fernandez some time to get an extra breather.
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see that guy that's up next when the pitcher hits, especially when the pitcher makes the second out. He'll wait almost in the on-deck circle until the pitcher gets back to home plate before he even starts to approach home plate.
The only thing, though, there's a man on second. If he gets a cookie, he may go ahead and swing. There he does. Two-hopper to Cosma. He's very sure-handed out there at short. Gets Juan Pierre at first base, so just the hit, and dying at second base is Jeff Mathis. 5-3, Marlins lead. Will go to the seventh. Here again, Marlins with a 5-3 lead over the Cardinals. Go to any Wednesday Marlins game and save up to 60% with the Chevron Crazy 8s ticket offer. Fill up at participating Chevron to get $8 home run porch or $18 home plate box tickets. This deal is crazy. Visit your local Chevron or Marlins.com. Chevron for details. Restrictions apply. Bullpen busy now as Jose goes out there to work this seventh inning. And the first hitter, he will face a pinch hitter for the Cardinals, Ty Wigginton, a guy the Marlins have seen over the years. He is always, he used to come to, it didn't matter whether it was Joe Robbie, pro player, Dolphins, he could hit in South Florida. 290 career average against the Marlins.
I mean, this year he's gotten off to a good start as a pinch hitter. He's 5 for 24 as a pinch hitter.
One of those veteran guys, always gives you a good at bat. Fouls a pitch off. He was an all-star, Wigginton was, in 2010 with the Orioles. Cardinals have 3 runs on 6 hits. 2 earned runs, 1 unearned. The Marlins 5 runs on 9 hits. Popped in the air. Looks like Dobbs wants it. He takes it for out number 1. Jose Fernandez has worked 6 1/3. He's given up just those 6 hits. Fernandez with 9 strikeouts and just 2 walks. Keith Butler, right-hander, gets loose for the Cardinals.
with those 9 strikeouts. Jose Fernandez now is 76 on the season and only 71 and 2/3 innings pitched.
Well, if you go to the rookie rankings, here's Matt Carpenter. With starters, rookie starters that have 10 or more starts, you'll see Fernandez's name number 1 in opposing batting average, number 3 in ERA, and he came into this game number 3 in strikeouts. He may be upward on that one.
Yes. League leader, I think I saw earlier, only had 104, and he's at 76.
And he's quickly ahead to Carpenter, where he struck out looking in the 5th inning. Didn't like his follow through there. This is his first 100 pitch game. There's strikeouts per 9 innings. Shelby Miller, the youngster with the Cardinals. Samardzija. Harvey. Good list. He's gotten Harvey 3 times in a row.
Harvey's not enjoying his night against Fernandez. You know, sometimes you run up against a guy that you don't pick up well. You can't judge the action on his pitches, and he has got Carpenter in the headlock tonight.
And he's also struck out 10. So first time double digits. Guarantee it will not be the last time.
I was about to say, will not be the last time we see that.
He's just happy that he got sent back out there in the 7th inning and he's over 100 pitches. He's a gamer. He's a battler. He likes it.
I guarantee he wanted to go back out there.
You need guys like that on your team. Guys who can't wait to be on the field. Guys who look for a reason to stay in the game. You know, the game is full of enough guys who look for a reason to have a day off or look for a reason to come out of a game. You need guys like this that find a reason, that want to be in the game, that want the ball.
It goes back, Niner, to what you said at the very beginning of the game, that he wanted the Cardinals. He wanted the best team in the National League.
You know, I think part of that is that youthful exuberance, but also when you want to be good, when you want to find out how good you are, you want to see how you measure up against the best. You know, and if your litmus test is going to be the best out there, then you want to see how you stack up, and then that way you know how far you need to go to get better. And that's a winning attitude. That's a champion attitude that he has.
Little chopper up the line, just goes foul. Count stays 2-2.
Second word
Carlos
of the day.
Beltran.
Litmus. Second word of the day from Preston Wilson. Very nice.
See, the problem is
what an education we're
Niner,
getting
the
here.
problem is with my retention, I guess, and age, I don't remember what the first word of the night was.
Malleable.
Oh, okay.
Malleable was first word of the night.
Doesn't want that one. Now he wants it. 2-2 pitch. Beltran fooled. Rolls it to Dietrich. And it's a 1-2-3 7th inning. 5-3 Marlins lead. Will go to the 8th. when Jose goes into the dugout, he goes up to just about everybody, and he is out of the game. 107 pitches. Just a tremendous outing tonight. Time for the 7th inning stretch tonight. Stretch a line and catch a Marlin in the Florida Keys and Key West. Boy, and catch the starts of Jose Fernandez whenever you can. So his night is done, and the night of Keith Butler just begins. Joe Kelly worked the 6th inning. Butler here in the bottom of the 7th. Lucas on the first pitch skies it to left field. In comes Holiday, and he puts it away, out number 1. Let's see what our Toyota trend is for tonight. Sometimes it's more than one trend, but either way, it's Toyota. Let's see, the Cardinals lead the major leagues. So I can't read that fast either. With a 686 road winning percentage.
Wow.
24-11. So playing well away from St. Louis. Not playing badly at home. They're 19-12, but just 7 over at home. Giancarlo with a nice night, 2 for 3. Single in the 3rd, doubled home 2 runs in the 5th.
Well, the league better watch out, because it looks like that means they got a lot of home games coming in the second half of the season.
Yeah. Yikes. Just a rocket down the left field line. Stanton running easy, running under control, getting to second base with his 2nd double tonight. A 3-hit night for Giancarlo Stanton. Boy, it's great to have that bat in the lineup.
Man, that bat is loud.
It just makes this a different sound than all the other bats. You hear that. It looks like you get jammed a little bit on that, too.
When the ball goes a line drive by the third baseman and he doesn't move until it's past him, you know that ball is just absolutely smoked.
The Marlins have 5 extra base hits tonight. 10 hits altogether.
You know, Nine, I used to do that maybe once every couple weeks. He does that every other night, hit the ball that hard.
Yeah, it's not fair. We're all just jealous.
Well, I'm very jealous.
Very jealous. I just wish I could hit a ball like that.
I'm jealous of the way he's built. All 5 extra base hits, by the way, are doubles tonight. Ozuna is 0 for 3, but lined out to right field his last time up. There's the bat speed in his last at bat. That's the ball, the speed of the ball coming off the bat.
There was a ball last year. You remember the home run he hit off the scoreboard?
The home run he hit off Jamie Moyer.
That went out at 122 and was the highest ever recorded since they started that, I think, back in 06.
Yeah, they had to have the construction crew to come back in and re-solidify the foundation of the stadium because it slid about 4 inches when the ball hit the scoreboard.
Good change up on that strike to Ozuna. Three for 4 night for Giancarlo Stanton. Another change up. 3-2 now to Marcell Ozuna. Westbrook went 5. Gave up 8 hits. 5 runs, 3 earned. Kelly won an inning, gave up just 1 hit. Now it's Keith Butler. Just missed it off the end of the bat. Lazy fly ball to left field. And Matt Holliday makes the catch.
78 miles an hour. I don't know if it's a breaking ball or a changeup, but he definitely dialed it down right there and used Ozuna's aggressiveness against him.
He's one of the few guys that comes out of the St. Louis bullpen that doesn't throw 100 miles an hour. These young arms they have down there are very impressive.
Yeah, they got a couple guys down there that can fire.
Yeah, and that's without the services of their closer, Mott, who's down.
Who could get it up to 98, 99. Their closer now is Edward Mujica.
19 for 19.
We know that guy.
19 saves. Their lefty matchup guy is Randy Choate, but this guy, I've been told, can get it up there in a hurry too. Kevin Sechrist.
I spoke with the bullpen coach for the Cardinals last postseason and remarked to him on how many guys they had that could throw 95 plus, and he told me we've got a lot more waiting in the minor leagues that are going to come up and throw even harder than these guys.
There's that changeup again. Yeah, Trevor Rosenthal, another hard thrower down in that bullpen. 1-2 to Dobbs, 2 outs, bottom of the 7th inning. Stanton at second base after a 1-out double. Boy, after the changeup, he snuck a fastball on the inside corner. That's all for the Fish in the 7th. 5-3 lead as we head to the 8th. Auto Nation in the first inning. The Cardinals jumped on Jose Fernandez, got a couple of runs. Craig with a base hit. Yadier Molina, one of the runs earned, one unearned. But the Marlins were able to bounce back in the second inning. Good hitting. Jeff Mathis with a ground ball, got the run in from third base. And then Fernandez himself ties the game with a base hit, bringing home Echeverria. In the fourth inning, Greg Dobbs with the wand. Good two-base hit to bring in Echeverria. The big blow, a gapper, a double off the bat of Giancarlo Stanton, bringing in two. Stanton with 3 hits tonight, a couple of RBIs. Marlins have a 5-3 lead and turn it over to Chad Qualls here in the top of the 8th inning.
Chad Qualls, for me, has been one of the all-stars of that bullpen out there. A veteran guy comes in here, has had a great track record. He's been a closer. You see his numbers so far this year, 25 innings pitched, only 5 base on balls. I think he's lent a lot of knowledge to those young arms out there in the bullpen.
He has his work cut out for him. Holliday, Craig, and Molina to bat for the Cardinals in the top of the 8th inning.
I was in Houston when Qualls was a rookie out there, and he was just coming in, and you could tell he had good stuff then. But the one thing that he's learned is he's learned to pitch to contact. You know, early on he wanted to get strikeouts. Now he's willing to let guys hit that sinker, beat it into the ground, get his ground ball to the shortstop and third baseman, and have some nice smooth innings.
Boy, that ball scooted through the infield in a hurry. Holiday with a leadoff single. First pitch he saw from Qualls. Seventh hit for the Cardinals.
Holiday with that hit now, 1 for 4 on the night. Kind of salvage the night a little bit.
First pitch, Craig Minervini right now live with Jose Fernandez. Craig?
Well, it was a great performance, especially if they seemed like they really jumped you, ambushed you in the first inning.
They did. You know, I wasn't having my location the way they wanted in the first inning. I mean, and I shouldn't say this. Everybody knows the Cardinals are a great team, and I mean their lineup is pretty tough.
What did you do after that to adjust?
I was talking to Matheson. He told me don't try to do too much, and you know just made the pitch where I wanted it. And you know I was a plan, and I was trying to make good pitches, and trying to get them out, and that's the plan. It was a plan.
Yeah, you had 10 strikeouts. I believe every one of them were on that breaking ball, which Preston Wilson described almost as a slurve rather than a 12-6. Is it different than you've had before? Or the same one?
Not really. I was surprised because now and then I looked back to the board. I saw 83 and 82, and normally I throw my slider 83 to 86, and today my breaking ball was like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think that you know it was working okay, and most important part was down. So that's what I really wanted. It that was down.
Good job there. Nice base hit too.
I don't know, man. I could get lucky. I just saw it and I tried to, to make contact. That's what I tried to do when I go out there.
I'm going to let you get back in there. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you.
All right, Jose Fernandez, nice enough to come out here during the ball game. Back up to you guys.
All right, good job, Craig. Jose, good to hear from him. Good pitch by Qualls.
Look at that, Preston. 97 miles an hour. He's still throwing it up there right now. I mean, that's impressive to me.
He can still bring it. You know, he knows when he wants to dial up the four-seamer, he can get it up there. Usually runs that two-seamer around 92 to 93 miles an hour, but he can still dial up a four-seamer and get it up in the upper 90s.
I'll tell you an interesting number tonight. The Cardinals have struck out 11 times. 10 by Jose, 1 by Qualls. The Marlins have struck out once tonight.
Wow.
Molina fouls off the first pitch.
I tell you, I know Fernandez said that he didn't really feel the difference, but we could see the difference in that breaking ball. It definitely was a different type of breaking ball, and I really think it may have confused the Cardinals hitters because when you study for a pitcher, you look at their stuff, you see what the breaking ball is in your mind, you prepare for that. So it probably took them a good 2 at-bats to adjust to that breaking ball because the hits they got early were on the fastballs.
Little chopper. Qualls has one play to first base, has time. Molina, the runner, gets the out on the play. Holiday moves over to second.
Well, for a young pitcher like Jose Fernandez that they have not seen before, their only experience is going to be watching video. And probably the earlier video that they're going to see of him is going to be that 12-6 curveball, so that's what they're expecting when they get up there.
Well, yesterday, with Mike Dunn getting loose, the Cardinals faced Matt Harvey. He went 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 run, had 7 strikeouts. Cardinals won that game, though. Adam Wainwright picked up his 10th win.
I'm starting to feel old now because I remember all these guys when they first came into the game. Wainwright, Qualls, I remember them all when they first broke into the big leagues.
How about me? I feel old because I'm seeing guys play in the big leagues now that were sons of guys I played with.
I'm getting close to the grandsons. Counts 1-0 to David Freese. Fouls it off. John Jay, the left-handed hitter's on deck. That's probably why we saw Mike Dunn warming up. After the Marlins post-game show tonight. Inside the Marlins, the Scouts. Always a nice show. Frank Fort on top of things. Talking with Marlins advanced scout Joe Moeller and many other scouts. The unsung heroes. You know,
and you talk about scouting, like the advanced scouting is one of the ways also that players get prepared for a pitcher they haven't seen before. The advanced scout will come in and may have a meeting with you before the series. Say, hey, look, we saw this guy. He was doing this, doing that. Breaking ball had this type of action, and now you get a whole different guy than what the advanced scouting showed.
Two-one pitch to Freeze. Lined inside the line. It's a fair ball. Into the corner. Freeze will pull up at second base, but in the meantime, Holiday comes in to score. And just like that, it's a one-run game.
Tell you what, with 2 outs, it may not make that much of a difference, but I know some people are not going to be too happy in that Cardinals dugout unless there's something wrong with Freeze, because he looked like he was shutting it down and settling for a double before he saw this play completed. And, you know, the ball kind of rolled around a little bit there, but he was already kind of checking in at second base as soon as he rounded first.
David Freeze can just flat out hit. 293 last year, 20 home runs. His lifetime average with runners in scoring position is over 300. So that's going to bring Mike Redmond to the mound. We saw lefty Mike Dunn warming up with John Jay, the left-handed hitter, coming up. Red has made the move to the bullpen. So Qualls comes in, threw the ball well, gives up a run. Dunn will come in, he'll face Jay, and we'll be back to finish off this 8th inning. $1,000. Today's total is 67 home runs, hit for a total of $800,000, raised to help fight prostate cancer. As we are approaching the Father's Day weekend, and Mike Dunn comes on to work to the left-handed bat of John Jay. And Niner, you and I were talking between innings. Cardinals aren't the best team in baseball and don't have the best record in baseball by not coming back and winning close games and winning games like this. So this is an important part of the game here.
Very important part of the game, and as we also pointed out, they're the best team in the league at hitting runners in scoring position with 2 outs at about a 350 clip coming in tonight's game.
You see the numbers. This is the matchup. Jay has struggled against left-handers this year. At second base, David Freeze after his RBI double. Good breaking ball to get ahead of Jay. Strike one, 0-1.
Mike Dunn having a good year this year. Also with Same number of strikeouts per innings, 28 innings pitched, 28 strikeouts. Because of that pitch right there, I think he's been able to find the strike zone better this year with his breaking ball. He wasn't able to as well last year.
Boy, that's a key pitch for him, too. If he can establish that breaking ball, that'll help him against left-handed hitters. Fernandez can just look on.
One of the refreshing things you see about Fernandez is he's out in that dugout after every start, and he will watch the rest of the game with his teammates.
Good fastball. Outside part of the plate. Yeah. 96 miles an hour, too.
That is refreshing. Yeah, as a player, you want to know that that pitcher cares about more than what goes on only when he's on the field.
One-two pitch, breaking ball. He checked his swing. Yep. Ron Colquitt, the third base umpire. Had a chance to talk to John Jay's father the other night, who was here at the ball game with a group of youngsters. Second round selection out of the University of Miami back in 2006. Tried to get him to go fishing. He would not, and the count goes 3-2 now to Jay. On deck is Pete Kozma. Kozma 0 for 3 tonight. Jay had an RBI double back in the 6th inning. And a good fastball is by Jay. Jose Fernandez liked it, so do the Marlins fans. That is all for the Cardinals in the 8th inning. They get a run. They make it a one-run game. We'll go to the bottom half. 5-4 Fish. Yeah. 5-4 Marlins, so we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. MLB.com at bat is the #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. At Bat delivers Marlins baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or go to Marlins.com for detail.
And if you can recognize that signature, you win the bat. Holy cow, what was that?
Yeah, it's just not enough pride taken anymore.
This has to be a nice experience for Kevin Seacrest, 23-year-old, out of Wellington High School, up my way in Palm Beach County. Went to Palm Beach Community College. Has worked his way up the Cardinal system and works his way up in the strike zone with a good fastball, and he does have a live arm.
Imagine that. Another guy out of the Cardinals bullpen that throws 95.
Comes right back with 94. Echeverria 1 for 3 tonight, singled and scored a run in the second inning. Hit into a fielder's choice. And then tap back to the mound. 0-2 fastball. It's one thing that the Cardinals have stressed. It's kind of like the Braves did years ago. And it started with Dave Duncan. It has continued with Derek Lilliquist, their pitching coach now. Fastball, first pitch, strikes. Use that fastball. Move it in and out. It's the best pitch you have.
Work ahead.
And that's all Seacrest has done. Let's see how the poll has turned out. Let's see if we were right. Twitter poll tonight. Are the Cardinals as good as everyone thinks?
Looks like they say 80% Cardinals, yes. 20% Cardinals, no way.
Segrist with another fastball. Segrist just called up, appearing in his 4th game. That's his breaking ball. It's a pretty good one, but it just missed. Into right field. Looks like it's playable for the right fielder. Carlos Beltran makes the catch. And there's one down. Now remember, tomorrow's Marlins on deck at 3:30. Game time is 4 o'clock. And the starters for the game tomorrow are Tom Kohler and Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn comes in with an 8-1 record and an ERA at an even 3. Tom Kohler, who's pitched well, still looking for that first major league win.
You know, he had some really good outings on that last road trip in Philly, New York, and you just feel like it's a matter of time. If he keeps throwing the way he is, especially with the Marlins offense picking it up a little bit, that, it shouldn't be too long in the future for him to get that first W.
Well, he's definitely pitched well enough a number of times this year to get the W, like you said, but the Marlins offense has struggled to score him some runs.
Dobbs staying back nicely, but it's picked by the left fielder, Matt Holliday. Greg Dobbs is robbed on a well-struck ball, a sinking line drive into left field, and Holliday picked it. Dobbs 1 for 4 on the night with a big double in the 4th inning.
That player just made a good jump on the ball. He had a good first step. Good concentration there to look that ball in. I'm not really a big proponent of the foot first slide on the ball. The only time I really like outfielders sliding feet first is when they're going towards the wall to protect themselves. I feel like you give up distance and you slow down to catch the ball sliding feet first when you're going towards home plate.
I agree. Or to avoid a collision.
Right.
Get underneath the infielder that might be coming out on the ball.
Jeff Mathis swings through a fastball.
I don't know if it's become cool, to do that sliding catch, but when you think about it, you're actually going backwards and slowing down as you're sliding on your bottom to get to the baseball, instead of if you run forward with your feet and lean, you're going to cover much more ground.
Right.
One thing I've heard in talking to outfielders, and I know you would have dealt with it more, but I haven't heard anybody complain about the lights.
Well, that was
as a pro player.
That's what I was getting ready to make a point of. The older stadiums where it was maybe like a 2-sport stadium where you played football and baseball, the lights were a factor on the corner. So I saw a lot of guys trying to duck the lights doing that.
Boy, quick 1-2-3 inning for Kevin Seacrest, and it'll be up to Steve Cishek to nail it down. 5 runs on 10 hits. The Cardinals with 4 runs on 8 hits. And here's a look at our Coors Light Cold Hard Fact. Tonight's Cold Hard Fact is brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. Juan Pierre riding a season-long 10-game hitting streak. Great to get it out of the way. Got it out of the way with a base hit in the first inning. It's the 19th streak of 10 or more games in his career.
You know, over the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 weeks or so, he's really put together some good at-bats. Some games he didn't get hits in early on, but you started seeing him square the ball up more. You started seeing him getting in the counts that he wanted to be in more. And even with men in scoring position, he started to having better swings. Maybe didn't necessarily produce RBIs all the time, but he's starting to have more consistently good at-bats.
Yeah, 2 hits tonight, a double as well. So now it's up to Steve Cishek. 7 saves, trying to make it number 8, and he is going to see some left-handed batters. Pinch hitter Daniel Descalso will lead it off. Looks like Matt Adams will probably swing the bat next. Cishek at one time, lefties were hitting well over 300. Lefties now 267.
Well, I think we really saw in that Mets series when they threw up those 3 left-handers and he saved the ball game, striking out Ankiel, I think, to end the game. Did amazing things for his confidence.
He's certainly gotten confidence. Look at the last 3 outings, 3 innings, no walks, 3 strikeouts, and he's faced a number of left-handers in those outings.
See, left-handers 0 for 6 with 2 strikeouts.
Well, I think you look at the other thing, the economy of pitches, 30 pitches in the 3 outings. That's huge.
Now he's got a tough left-hander, Matt Adams, 6 for 16 off the bench. This is a guy that can only play first base. The Cardinals, if not for the way Alan Craig swings a bat and gets key base hits, they'd love to have this guy in there on an everyday basis.
We saw him do some damage, Tommy, in spring training this year. We saw a lot of this guy.
He's a big boy.
Cishek misses with the first 2 pitches. 2-0 to Matt Adams. Has a good rip at a 2-0 pitch.
Looked like he was trying to hit a nice little single to left field there.
Yeah, you know, just trying to let the ball get there, manipulate the bat head, go the other way.
Cardinals got a couple of runs in the first. Marlins tied it in the second. Put 1 up in the fourth. Put 2 up in the fifth. Good pitch. Stayed in on his hands. Stay tuned for Marlins postgame show with Craig and Cliff.
I think this is a pitch that Steve Cishek kind of shied away from a little bit. That inside slider. He's been trying to go backdoor a lot, and we've seen him miss a lot that backdoor and come over the middle of the plate. That's where the left-handers have really gotten him.
You just got to let the umpire decide down, because even if you swing at it, you do nothing with it. So, you know, Adams is going back, going, man, there's nothing I can do with that pitch.
You see Mathis set up. He wanted that pitch kind of where the last one ended up. Where he wanted it away, went in. That one he wanted in, it went away.
But the key there is that ball's down. You can get away with that pitch as long as it's down.
Boy, he's firing. Good pitches, quality strikes in perfect spots. Carpenter singled his first time up, struck out his next 3 times up against Jose Fernandez. Marlins trying to win the first game of this series. Marlins trying to go 6-5 in the month of June. Marlins trying to beat the best team in the National League. And by golly, I think they've done it. A 1-2-3 inning. Jose Fernandez gets win number 4, lowers his ERA to 3.11. Cishek picks up save number 8. retires 3 left-handed hitters. 1, 2, 3 in the 9th inning. Terrific ball game tonight. Giancarlo Stanton had a 3-hit night. A big double that drove in 2 runs. Westbrook, the losing pitcher. And an entertaining game for a crowd of 15,403. 5-4. Marlins win the first one of this 3-game series.